Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. People at Marvel. Kamar-Taj signs on for 10 years. Chapter 41. At this time, something happened again in the sky. Thick dark clouds were violently stirring, and something seemed to appear in the center of the whirlpool. Thor, is some relative of yours here again? Phil Coulson asked tremblingly. He had been fighting all night, wouldn't anyone want to continue playing? And it looks like it came off the Asgard Bifrost. Probably not. If nothing else happens, it should be Asgard's weapon, the Destroyer. While Su Chen was talking, things in the whirlpool gradually became clearer, and a 3-meter-high iron lump fell from the sky to the ground. Is it a robot? Phil Coulson started to answer. He thought this thing looked familiar. It looked like Tony's steel armor. It just looks a little silly. Almost. This is a good baby. Su Chen wiped his cheek. He was also greedy for this stuff. You must know that the Destroyer is the ultimate weapon of the King of God Odin, and it can be controlled independently or by others. And this was built by Odin specifically to resist the invasion of the 9 realms by the Celestials. Wearing it is equivalent to the god-level Odin, who can challenge the strength of the gods. However, Su Chen glanced at Thor. Just for such a tough guy, I ruined such a naughty treasure. Odin, you've lost a lot of money. Why do you keep this prodigal son? To provide for your retirement. You go first. If nothing else happens, the one who controls the Destroyer is not Odin himself, but Loki from before. Thor, brother, that's okay, he's here to take us home. Loki has seized power and taken the throne. He is here to kill you and silence you. 3 Asgard warriors stood up and tried to wake Thor up. Are you telling the truth? You're not kidding. Thor said with a frown. That's right. Otherwise we wouldn't have come down to the next world to protect you. Thor seemed reluctant to believe this. But I still think in my heart, I love my brother so much, and my brother loves me so much, why is this happening? Su Chen seemed to have seen what Thor was thinking. Su Chen thought silently in his heart. When you go back, you will love your brother even more. No, that's your sister. The orthopedics department welcomes you. No, it's not a kiss anyway. So what are you afraid of? It is estimated that Odin will still work hard to bring them together. The Destroyer looked at the place that was almost a wasteland. Loki, who controls the Destroyer, wonders if this is really Earth. It wasn't like this when I came here before. Am I in the wrong place? But too soon I saw the main goal of this trip. Su Chen, Thor, as the ultimate weapon of Asgard, it has no long-distance communication function. Bad review. Loki, who controlled the Destroyer, didn't waste any time. He directly controlled the Destroyer and charged forward. Along the way, the Destroyer opened his armor and sprayed out a hot beam of destruction from his head. This beam could melt almost all matter. Separate, Su Chen shouted to everyone when he saw this. At the moment, everyone had already experienced a big battle, and few of them were still fighting. The 3 warriors of Asgard are exhausted. Hill is severely disabled and has residual health. Johnny mostly passed through Hellfire and was taken back by Mephisto, and he could barely transform, even if it was just a transformation. However, the most powerful high-attack methods in Hellfire are basically ineffective against the Destroyer. The combat power is equal to 0. Thor, if Odin secretly lets him go, we can fight. But looking at the Destroyer's appearance, it's probably unlikely. And he had done a crazy output before. Most of the mana has been consumed. As for Phil Coulson, just don't die. So in the end we can only. Icarus, come on, let's go together. After saying that, Su threw Frostmourne to Icarus. After all, Icaros basically deals physical damage. Equipped with a semi-artifact, it has the ability to damage magical objects. Only spell damage can barely prevent the Destroyer's recovery ability. Icon illusion. Energy whip. Suddenly, many shadows appeared from Su Chen's duplication. Before Loki could find his true body, many duplications condensed into an energy whip. They entangled the limbs and torso of the Destroyer respectively. Icarus, cut him with your sword. As a magician, Loki quickly found Su Chen's identity. The controlled Destroyer's whole body structure suddenly rotated, like a snake squirming. The Destroyer, who originally had his back to Su Chen, was now facing Su Chen after spinning. The mask above his head opened and began to condense a destructive energy. When Icarus saw this, he did not attack the Destroyer. He appeared directly in front of Su Chen and used Frostmourne to block the attack. If he were to directly resist with his body, Icarus might not be able to do it in his current state. With this kind of squirming structure all over the body, isn't Odin afraid of flashing his waist at such an old age? Or did his wife Frigga unlock these strange postures for him? Su Chen saw the destroyer's strange state, shape, design, and other aspects and was no longer able to complain. As for Odin, who was far away in Asgard, his consciousness was perceiving the 9 realms, and he couldn't help but twitching the corner of his mouth again. I don't know if it was Su Chen's illusion, but the destroyer in front of him seemed to be stronger, and his movements became smoother. Su Chen was not idle and immediately hugged Icarus to avoid this frontal blow. The destructive beam that lost its target cut this barren land in half directly from the middle, and then extended all the way to dozens of miles away, directly changing the landscape and turning it into a brand new canyon. Odin is so stingy. Looking at the people who are dodging around, it is not an option if this continues. If the fight continues, New Mexico will probably be wiped out. At this level of combat power, it is still possible to fight freely. Since you are a robot, let's beat you in a robot way. Icarus unlocks the restriction and activates Queen of the Sky mode. Hearing Su Chen's cry, Icarus finally activated this strongest mode. The originally dark green pupils turned amber red in an instant, and his body was also changing rapidly. A huge halo of light appeared on the head, and the wings were fully opened, emitting a bright light. Think Restriction Protection Program completely lifted. 80.90. The Variable Wing Protection City area is in contact. 80.90. The Self-Healing Program is running at full capacity. The Skill Protection Program is being lifted. Awakening the complete body, Queen of the Sky. Target locked. Amber eyes instantly located the traces of the destroyer. Permanent rear-end air-to-air missile Artemis. I saw a dozen objects similar to guided tracking missiles immediately shot out from behind Icarus. With the long air waves and extremely fast speed, the destroyer was located. The destroyer controlled by Loki in Asgard was stunned for a moment, but soon he sneered. It's ridiculous. With such low-level fireworks, what can I do even if I stand here? Huge amounts of smoke rose from the ruins around the destroyer. Accompanied by strong vibrations, there was a violent roar. Boring attack. The destroyer opened its face again, and a red energy was gathering. Die. Absolute defensive circle Aegis. A blue and white AT force field suddenly appeared in front of Icarus. The powerful ray that could melt almost everything was completely blocked and absorbed by the absolute defense circle. How is that possible? This is a charged blow. The angry roar of Loki, the controller of Destroyer in Asgard. At this time, when Su Chen saw such a fierce Icarus, he had already run to the edge and abetted the entire audience. Brother, run quickly, Icarus is going to use his big move. Then he dropped these words and shouted loudly to everyone. Seeing Su Chen running away like this, how dare you bring him here? Didn't you see that the invincible Su Chen ran away? Sajani summoned the undead motorcycle, took the mortal Phil Coulson and the disabled Sif, and ran outside on the motorcycle. Let's go first. I can only take 2 of you with me. You should be lucky to yourselves. Then Johnny rushed outside at the same speed as running away before, and disappeared in a flash. Only the confused Thor and the Asgard trio were left. Icarus is still attacking the destroyer with its permanently launched air-to-air missiles. Then the destroyer kept condensing rays to fight back. In Loki's impression, there is no defense that does not require energy consumption. As long as the critical value is reached, it will always be broken. Besides, the destroyer has no other means of attack in his hands. So the situation became a stalemate. But Loki is waiting for Icarus to run out of energy, and what is Icarus waiting for? She was waiting for Icarus and Su Chen to leave the attack range. Next Icarus gets serious. The ultimate weapon Apollo. A blood-red longbow appeared in Icarus's hand. The terrifying energy whirlwind suddenly condensed and turned into a dazzling arrow feather. The terrifying energy condensed and sizzled in the air. MD, the legendary nuclear bomb arrow. Sorcerer Supreme, if you don't come out, the United States will be gone. Su Chen suddenly raised his head and shouted, such a big thing happened here, and the Ancient One who owns the time gem will never fail to see it. Ancient One may be late, but he will never be absent. As Su Chen finished speaking, a portal appeared beside him. Faced with such an attack, it was obvious that the Ancient One magician had seen the end. So there was no nonsense and he spoke directly. We will cover the entire New Mexico in the mirror space, otherwise Icarus's magic resistance will not be able to bring it in. After saying that, Ancient One looked at him resentfully, as if to say, look at the good deeds you have done. The Ancient One had actually been there a long time ago. He had been busy saving ordinary people, so he didn't show up. Otherwise, with Mephisto's destructive power and Su Chen's destructive power, I wonder how many people could survive here. This is also the reason why Su Chen can fight with all his strength. There are only a few people present in New Mexico now. Su Chen didn't waste any time and directly cooperated with the Ancient One magician to provide him with strong magic support. Coupled with the dark energy wave from the dark dimension. Used when Ikaros activates his ultimate skill, the mirror space finally envelopes the entire New Mexico. You must know that it is not only Icarus the Destroyer who is brought in, but the entire space. In the mirror space, boom boom boom, Icarus shot an arrow, which seemed to span space, and the arrow feathers appeared directly in front of the Destroyer. Huge amounts of roaring made the whole world tremble. A dazzling mushroom cloud slowly rose in the sky, its dazzling light shield like a sun. It's impossible to look straight at. The shockwave set off by the explosion swept across everything. Mountains and forests with a radius of tens of thousands of miles were instantly turned into flat ground, and huge rocks were directly turned into countless gravels, scattered on the earth. Huge amounts of storms swept over the earth like a Category 12 typhoon, leaving no grass behind in its path. Far, far away, Phil Coulson looked at the huge amounts of mushroom clouds on the battlefield in surprise, trying to maintain balance in the strong wind. His lack of vocabulary could not express their shock, and he did not know how to express it. Such a strong man can conquer the world by himself, and no one can stop him. But the next moment he was pulled back to the real world by Ancient One. Otherwise, they'll have to wait until Shockwave finally arrives. At the same time, there were Thor and others. Now they are panting. Now they just hate that they don't have more legs, and why don't they learn to fly? Are they still human beings? Phil Coulson had no other thoughts, and there was only fear in his eyes. Is this the strength of a top powerhouse? If I had such strength, I would go shopping in Jotunheim every day. Thor was full of longing and envy, and something called power grew in his heart. Because it is a mirror space for large-scale spellcasting, it is equivalent to a different dimensional barrier, so the outside world can also clearly see the state inside. When the thick smoke dispersed, they were fortunate enough to see the changes in the center of the battlefield. New Mexico has disappeared, replaced by a circular basin. It's okay, if we were a step slower, the entire United States would probably be turned into dust of history. Seeing that the spell was cast in time, Su Chen couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. ... Everyone once again lost the ability to speak. In the center of the basin, at the core of the explosion, everything was destroyed by high temperatures. There is only one fate for any living body within the covered range, and that is evaporation and gasification. Within more than 10 kilometers, the land was crystallized, and the charred soil turned into powder at the slightest touch. Looking down from a high altitude, nothing was left. After a long time, except for the dust that continued to hang in the sky, everything else became quiet, and the hot temperature gradually cooled from the outside to the inside. Icarus searches for traces of the destroyer, and she wants to make sure the final target has not been destroyed. Whoosh! A white light shot out from the center of the nuclear explosion arrow and hit Icarus's defensive barrier. Before Apollo fell, Loki was already powerless and slumped on the throne of Asgard, his pride in his heart completely shattered. That's it. Give up, Loki thought. But at this time, the destroyer actually moved on his own, mobilizing all the inscriptions on the Uru metal, draining all his magic power and shrinking. Boom! The destroyer ultimately survived the hit. This is definitely not the destroyer himself moving, but Odin has taken over the destroyer. The destroyer can only exert its greatest power when he wears it, and remote control is much inferior. But compared to Loki, it will still be n times stronger. It can still reach god-level power even from a distance. Seeing that my two sons are being bullied, I want to go out and find some trouble. Swish, swish, swish. There was a sound of earth churning, and a big bag bulged out from the ground and exploded. The destroyer flew into the air with a fierce light on his face. The originally colorless pupils glowed with a dazzling red light. It seems that he is swearing that he is different. The current destroyer is somewhat dilapidated, as if it has experienced a major accident. However, as time goes by, the destroyer is recovering quickly. Obviously the current destroyer has been taken over by Odin, who is entering Odin's sleep. Otherwise, with the Apollo nuclear bomb arrow just now, the destroyer would not be able to survive under Loki's control. The destroyer controlled by Odin already has god-level combat power. Icarus detected the danger and immediately activated the final system. Uranus system. Icarus's wings, which exuded hardness, stretched out into an unknown space like an antenna plug. A giant aerial floating weapons depot full of science fiction slowly appeared. Now Icarus is the real king of air combat, the queen of the air. Karis. As soon as he finished speaking, countless missile-style weapons poured out. The destroyers controlled by Odin dodged one after another, but the missiles were numerous. The brilliant fireworks instantly lit up the night sky. Because there were too many missiles, the destroyer accidentally took a few hits, and several pieces of the destroyer's armor were suddenly missing. Such a huge number of artillery shells also coexist in power and quantity. The attack was like a goddess scattering flowers, making the destroyer unable to resist. The destroyer can't even get close. And how many missiles does Icarus have? Su Chen tells you, there is no end. The destroyer controlled by Odin did not dare to show weakness. The destroyer took out a long sword from somewhere and waved it around him to cut off the artillery fire. Odin swung his sword so fast that he only saw a cold light flashing past the cannonball, and then it was divided into countless pieces. At this time, Odin began to get a little better. Even though he was still in Odin's sleep, he still outputted a lot of divine power to the destroyer. It doesn't matter even if I overdraw and lose my strength for a long time in the future. Now he just wants to let the people of Earth see the power of Asgard. After not walking on the Earth for many years, will the Earth forget his existence? The golden divine power poured through the mirror space like a torrent onto the destroyer. The destroyer's Uru metal was completely activated, and his entire body exuded divine brilliance, and his powerful aura was rising steadily. In the end, he faced Icarus's cannon fire and struck the strongest blow. Icarus also saw this and was ready to launch his most powerful ultimate move to destroy the enemy in front of him. A huge amount of energy ball suddenly condensed in front of Icarus's floating weapons depot. The weapon arsenal quickly recharges energy balls. Icarus's energy exploded further, and the surging energy was like a vast ocean of waves, destroying the dam and venting madly to the energy ball outside. At this time, lightning flashed and thundered in the sky, thunder snakes shuttled rapidly through the black clouds, and whirlwinds mixed with cold breath tore the dark clouds into pieces. The flow of energy triggers rapid changes in celestial phenomena. Because the violent fluctuations of energy attracted electrons floating in the air, thunder struck down from high altitudes, shrouding Icarus in a sea of thunder. There was a loud bang, and the entire mirror space began to shake violently, and the dazzling red light was ready to go. Hyperthermal body compression anti-ship gun Hephaestos. Odin's final blow concentrated on the sword, emitting a dazzling golden light. Seeing that Icarus still had a trump card, but now that the matter was over, Odin had no choice but to take over. Gold and red, the two energies stir and stir, producing scorching heat and light. The terrifying force of the ultra-high heat body compression against the naval gun made it difficult for Odin to resist. The arm holding the sword gradually bent, and his divine power was also rapidly passing away. When his divine power is completely exhausted, he will perish. Finally, everything in the entire mirror space is annihilated in this terrible energy. This mirror space covering the entire New Mexico suddenly collapsed. Then a dazzling red light shot out. The sky was torn out with huge amounts of holes. The camera zoomed out, and a beam of light shot straight out of the Earth's atmosphere, across the endless void, and directly hit the surface of the moon. However, the power of the violent energy remained unabated and directly penetrated the moon. From now on, humans at their best will only be able to see the crescent moon. Huge amounts of light pillars continue to rise in the universe, and the energy aftermath continues unabated, lighting up the dark deep space of the universe. Confirm that the enemy force has been destroyed. Restore to normal mode. The Uranus system in midair gradually disappeared into the void, while Icarus returned to its normal state. She has transformed into the cute look before, and no one can tell that she is the boss who almost destroyed the world before. After a while, Su Chen and others immediately rushed to the center of the New Mexico basin. At the moment, Icarus didn't show any signs of fatigue, and Su Chen still looked like he had enough energy to fight for 300 rounds. Icarus, my little darling, let me see if you are injured. After saying that, Su Chen ran up to rub Icarus's wings and little face. Others had complicated expressions. What Phil Coulson is thinking is, the damage here is so serious, how to calculate the compensation issue. What Thor was thinking was, Dad, your armor is damaged, will I be scolded when I get home? Ancient One is thinking, is this the secret you promised to protect the Earth? Will you die if you don't keep a high profile? There was nothing she could say about Su Chen, the magician. It was also difficult for him to say that what Su Chen did was wrong. After all, if she were to do it, it might not be better than Su Chen. In the end, it is even possible to use the time gem, and then everyone is imprisoned in the time cycle. It's time for us to return to Asgard. You have been wasted a lot of time on Earth. Your parents and your kingdom need you. The three warriors looked at Thor and said nervously. To be honest, they were scared. What just happened? They are just cannon fodder. It is impossible to fight anymore. If they don't run away and another universe overlord comes here, will they still be alive? After hearing the words of the three warriors, Thor nodded. Sif was seriously injured and needed treatment, and he had already lost a lot of time. If it delays a little longer and allows Loki to develop, Asgard may really have nothing to do with him. At the moment they didn't know that Loki was still doubting life on the throne. From today on, you can regard me as your ally. I believe that if there is a chance, we will meet again in the future. When Thor finished speaking these words while standing with the four Asgard people, Bifrost had fallen and took Thor and others away. Not even Thor's Mjolnir was taken away. This makes Su Chen wonder if this guy is scared, right? Okay, it's okay now, let's go, Icarus. After saying that, Su Chen opened the portal and returned to New York's holy place with Icarus and the Ancient One. Hey, this business trip is really tiring. The Ancient One looked at Su Chen, who didn't think it was a big deal, and felt helpless. The good monastery was now on the table because of this thing. You must know that many people have been harassing these three holy places recently, causing them to have peace meetings. In the end, only Ghost Rider Johnny was left, and Phil Coulson was still at the original schedule and was at a loss. Suddenly the communication phone in Phil Coulson's hand rang. Director, I'm finally done. I don't have to worry anymore. I scared the baby to death. The dangers Phil Coulson has encountered in the past few days have almost taken all the risks he has taken in his life. The risk factor is directly full. In the past few days, I have seen urban legends, Ghost Rider, demons, defeated the Demon King, Thor, and the legendary Asgard robot destroyer. I also survived an attack that destroyed the country. Okay, I've heard a rough idea, so please tell me first what this terrifying monster that occupies half of the sky is. There are many people who have seen this thing. If S.H.I.E.L.D. hadn't promptly controlled the network, I'm afraid it would have spread by now. It's everywhere. Fury first pulled up Mephisto's video, preparing to listen to Phil Coulson's words and take notes. That's Mephisto, no doubt, it's the one in Myths and Legends, who was finally beaten away by Su Chen with a hammer. Phil Coulson explained. Isn't he dead? In the video, yeah, they said it was duplication. Okay, what about the last floating weapons depot and the metal armor? Do you remember the little girl we saw last time at the holy place? The little girl with wings. Yes, he summoned her. Don't be fooled by his appearance. I regret it now. I didn't feed her. I hate it so much. Phil Coulson only feels that life is dark. That metal robot is something from Asgard. It was probably made to compete for the throne. Now Thor has gone with their people. In just a moment, Phil Coulson roughly explained the situation here. But at this time, Phil Coulson was already exhausted mentally and physically. Phil Coulson said that now I just want to go home to relax and retire, and to hell with my work and everything else. Phil Coulson, I've seen what's going on over there via satellite. I'm glad you survived. Director Fury, who was far away in S.H.I.E.L.D., continued to look at the previous demon on the monitor. It seems that he is trying to find the devil's weakness. But that voice directly blew up a base and made him give up the idea. This is not the most powerful one. The last two smaller robots are even more powerful. A direct arrow was afraid that New Mexico would become a basin. There is one last shot. From now on, they can only watch the waning moon. However, thinking that this was a machine, he edited the last video and sent it to Iron Man Tony. And just now the Security Council blew up its own phone calls again. Fury knew who the protagonist of this battle was. Didn't he say before that they were acting in secret? With such great destructive power, do they want to wash the minds of people all over the world into thinking that this is the destructive power caused by a meteorite impact? Fury couldn't complain anymore. He let out a long sigh. Fury said again, seemingly sensing Phil Coulson's mood. After writing this mission report, I will give you a long vacation, or you can take a civilian job for a few days. Phil Coulson widened his already reddish eyes. Director, don't say such nonsense, I just want to go back and take a nap now. And, aren't you going to line up a plane to pick me up? The next day the people of the United States were busy. People in New Mexico find that when they wake up, their home is gone. Is this okay? When the people of the United States woke up, they discovered that a state was missing. And when people all over the world woke up from their sleep, they found that the moon was missing a corner. So countries worked hard to appease the people, and SHIELD began to operate at overload. Security Council, please wait and report the specific situation to you later. The first-hand information is still being written by hand and a copy will be sent to you as soon as it is completed. Nick Fury hung up with a solemn expression. This was already countless notification calls. Looking at Phil Coulson who was still writing furiously in front of him, and the millions of words of the action report. Phil Coulson thinks that SHIELD may not be available this year. I have already heard your general report, but I still need to explain the details in detail. Fury looked at Phil Coulson with a serious face. Looking at this man who was exhausted both physically and mentally, he, the man he called the King of Agents, couldn't help but feel a little distressed. But when you are working as a worker, you have to work with peace of mind and show no mercy. Okay, the specific situation is this. Basically, Hell wanted to conquer the Earth, but Su Chen didn't agree, and then there was a big war. This is the first force from outside the Earth that came out of this trip. The other thing is the incident of the Prince of Asgard seizing power. This is the second force. According to intelligence, Asgard has had diplomacy with the Earth and is still protecting the Earth. But in my opinion, rather than protecting the Earth, the Asgard people regard us as vassals. In the mythological texts, they have indeed done this. Vassal. Fury looked grave. After thousands of years of civilization development, we are barely qualified to explore the universe, but in the end we are just vassals. It's really unpleasant. Perhaps in the eyes of people like Odin, human beings are weak and easy to succumb, but they are still full of rebellion in their bones. If you really want to make ** people your vassals, that probably takes up time too. Wait until the majority of people are strong enough. But after trying our best to fight like this, it seems that they will no longer treat us as vassals. Fury thought fiercely that if this was the case, there might be interstellar wars in the future. It seems that the Avengers' plan is going to be accelerated. Let's not talk about Asgard. Let's talk about Hell. The purpose of Hell is more worrying. If this is Hell, it would be more appropriate for Ghost Rider to make a report. Didn't you interrogate the infamous knight? How is it now? Phil Coulson asked. He was still more concerned about Johnny. After all, Johnny had protected him before, otherwise he would have been cold. It went very well. Ghost Rider is quite cooperative so far. Natasha Romanoff is already getting better at it. The information will be sorted out and sent over soon. Fury explained with a red face, that for the agent, only the results and the process are up to you. Will you let him go after that? Although Phil Coulson knew this was inevitable, he couldn't help but ask. What do you want to do? Fury asked. The other party was a legendary species, so there was no reason for him to be so cooperative. On the way back, I thought about it. The other person is not an ordinary person, and he has an upright heart. I think he can be absorbed into our organization. The Avengers can have his place. Well, this is a good idea. How about I let you negotiate with the other party? Director, I'm a little uncomfortable with you being so cheerful. Nick Fury didn't want to either. Overnight, the world changed. People who have seen Hulk's previous battles may be able to hold it back, but people who have seen this latest battle finally can't hold it back. They saw the real top combat power and discovered that there are still such strong people on the Earth, so they couldn't help but solicit those superheroes. Some even extend their claws to mutants who are incompatible with humans. Some people also entered the underwater prison and crazily recruited those villains. Avoid future crises. Even if their contribution reaches the standard after completing the task, they will be exempted from prison terms and receive state subsidies. After making the report, Phil Coulson also opened the door to Johnny's interrogation room. "Brother, are you okay?" Phil Coulson looked at the slightly sleepy Johnny. After all, it was daytime and there were too many things last night. He hadn't slept yet. "It's not very good. The person interrogating is very evil. If I hadn't suppressed him, he would have come out." Johnny covered his lower body and said to Phil Coulson, "Evil? Well, she is very evil. If she had not become an agent, she would have become a very beautiful and carefree little girl." "Okay, I barely believe you." Johnny didn't want to explain too much. Except for Black Widow, he feels that most people here are evil, not like Black Widow Natasha Romanoff. "I have now convinced the director that you can join another secret team at the highest level of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's called Avengers Team." Phil Coulson still introduces the purpose, composition, goals of this team, and who takes orders. But Johnny didn't care about these. "I only have one question, what kind of treatment?" Johnny raised his legs and put his head on his hands, looking at Phil Coulson like a second uncle, as if he wouldn't do it unless he gave him an answer that satisfied him. "With an annual salary of tens of millions, once hired, you will enjoy the benefits of a state-owned enterprise. 5 insurances and 1 housing fund, weekends off, statutory holidays, regular physical examinations, paid annual leave, work meals, a house, and union benefits. If you still need it, S.H.I.E.L.D. can help you with your marriage and single issues. If you need it in the future, your children can enjoy education subsidies and be guaranteed admission to key universities." Phil Coulson looked at Johnny. Even he couldn't help but drool at this treatment. Definitely not the latter one. Ordinary people don't get this kind of treatment. The main purpose is for scientists to see if Johnny is still reproductively isolated and whether he will give birth to a child with the same ability. If possible, S.H.I.E.L.D. will be confident enough to raise a bunch of little skeletons 100 years from now. Forget the last one, I already have someone I like. Without Mephisto's control, I can fall in love freely. That's such a pity. Phil Coulson couldn't help showing an expression of regret on his face. "What are you thinking? You don't want me to become a pony, do you?" Johnny looked excited. "If so, it doesn't matter, I won't refuse." Phil Coulson facepalmed. "I didn't expect you to be such a person." "I reject. Asgard. This is a planet floating in the universe similar to a floating island." Suddenly a colorful light flashed and Thor and his team appeared in front of Heimdall. "Loki is waiting for you in the hall, go." Heimdall closed the Bifrost and said to Thor. Thor, who didn't have a hammer, had no choice but to tell the 3 warriors to take care of Sif, and then went straight to the hall. In the main hall, Loki lowered his head and held the golden spear of eternity. If it weren't for that gloomy face, he would still have the majesty of a king. "Loki, why are you doing this?" Thor asked when he saw his brother. "How much I protect my younger brother, why would my younger brother want to kill me?" "Thor, you are still so naive. I just want to become the king of Asgard. I want to prove to my father that I am his best son. When father wakes up, he will see a more powerful Asgard, and I will kill the ice giants." The more he spoke, the more ferocious Loki's face became, seeming to encompass all the evil in the world. "You can't destroy a race." Thor retorted. "Why not? Do you still have a crush on the giants of Jotunheim? Weren't you able to kill them with your bare hands before?" Loki stepped down from the throne, picked up the Spear of Eternity and circled it around Thor, tightening the grip on the Spear of Eternity in his hand. It seems that only this artifact can barely give him a sense of security. He also wanted to hear some answers from his brother that he really wanted to hear but didn't want to hear. After all, he is a child of the giants of Jotunheim family. "I have changed, and I have brought back something from Earth that will allow Asgard and the giants of Jotunheim to live in eternal peace." After speaking, Thor looked excited and quickly took out the potion in his hand. Although I didn't hear clearly what the result was, I could still hear the process clearly. Just inject this stuff into Loki. I can accomplish such a simple thing. However, Loki was very dissatisfied with this answer. Do you have a favorable impression or not? After speaking, Loki used the eternal spear to fire a ray at Thor. Thor, who had no time to defend himself, was directly knocked away. Fortunately, the power of awakening Thor strengthened his body, otherwise he would have been injured just now. Come and hit me. You are just a child who has the love of your father and mother. I have never wanted the throne. I just want to be treated the same, and you don't give it to me. The last sentence Loki yelled at Thor, who was as aggrieved as a 100-pound child. Brother, I won't fight you. But as soon as Thor finished speaking, he activated the thunder power of awakening and rushed towards Loki. Loki couldn't dodge and was thrown to the ground by Thor. Thor's lightning paralyzed Loki. I'm not your brother, isn't that ridiculous? It's not ridiculous, I just know you are my brother and that's enough. Thor forced a smile. Then the injection of medicine was injected into Loki's body. Really? That's really. Before Loki could finish speaking, his body underwent drastic changes. The originally thin body became more slender. The entire person's skeleton began to shrink laterally, the skin became breakable, and the calluses originally caused by using the dagger disappeared. The legs became slender, and the places where there was flesh began to have flesh. Especially his chest muscles became more and more exaggerated. Fortunately, Loki's clothes are magic tools that can automatically adjust the file size, so it didn't turn into an explosive scene. Brother, please return my emotion. This was when Loki's voice became delicate, making Thor feel numb. Loki, what's wrong with you? What happened? I don't know what happened. Thor felt that Loki's body, which was imprisoned below him, began to change. If you don't move out of the way, the handle of your Mjolnir hammer is resting on me. Thor looked confused. I guess Mjolnir fell on the earth. What kind of hammer can I have? I'll ask Dwarf to make one for me later. No, I don't want a hammer, I want an axe. Odin, who was still sleeping after using up his divine power, perceived this scene and woke up instantly. Even though he couldn't sleep anymore, he quickly got up and rushed to the king's palace. Thor, what did you do? Thor felt someone tapping his shoulder from behind and turned to look. Father, why are you here? It was as if Thor was playing with his mobile phone in class and was suddenly tapped on the shoulder by the teacher. Tremble. Then he immediately got up from Loki's body. What did you do, Loki, to end up like this? Although Odin has no magical powers now, he is like an old man who will die at any time. But his eyes were full of majesty, and Thor did not dare to refute, so he repeated everything Su Chen said in the lower realm. Is this the end? What's next? Not finished. Then the destroyer came, was interrupted, and Ming heard. At this time, Thor was like a child who had done something wrong and was waiting for his parents to punish him. Father, I'm sorry, it was me who harmed my brother. No, my sister has become like this, I will find a way to change her back. Father, please give me a chance to atone for my sins. After saying this, Thor knelt before Odin. Odin looked at Thor's lower body and said, you have never thought about changing Loki back. But he decided to give it a try. Your mother knows some witchcraft, maybe she can change Loki back. Queen Mother, isn't it safe? Su Chen is one of the first-class magicians on Earth, and accidents may occur if his things are hacked at will. Should we go to Su Chen herself? At this time, Odin also understood that this Iron Fool still had to practice if he wanted to become a king. Without further ado, I'll go down to the next world to find Su Chen. After saying that, Thor harnessed the power of Thor and flew towards Bifrost. Slow. At this time, Thor had disappeared, and Odin looked at the now pitiful third princess Loki. Odin also seemed to understand what Su Chen meant. When he rolled his eyes, it seemed like there was something going on. The two sons I raised know their roots well enough, if they are to be united. That is the combination of strength and wisdom, and the future is promising. Boom. Before Odin could finish thinking, there was a loud explosion of huge amounts. I saw a charred Thor falling in front of Odin. Father, I'm sorry for you. I just awakened the power of Thor. The power was too strong. I couldn't control it. When I got excited, I accidentally stepped on the Bifrost. Odin's expression darkened. He snatched the eternal spear from Loki's hand, and gave Thor a heart-wrenching blow. Come here, take Thor for treatment. No, no need for treatment, let him recover on his own. Loki saw this and ran out with tears in his eyes, constantly muttering. Su-Chen, it was you who made me like this, I must make you feel my pain. Ever since Fury returned to S.H.I.E.L.D. from Holy Place, I started preparing a gift for my next meeting with Su-Chen. That was to film myself on the elevator during the entire S.H.I.E.L.D. After it was full, facing the person with the highest position inside. Walk up to his ear and say, Hydra hail. Then take away his most precious thing. This is the request made by Su-Chen. Hydra is a special organization that appeared in World War II. They were the cause of World War II and were almost the first supervillain organization to appear. HYDRA's slogan is, cut off one head and two will grow in its place. It fits the image of the mythical Hydra and realizes this slogan with its endless soldiers. But this organization was destroyed decades ago by S.H.I.E.L.D. As the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., calling out Hydra hail in his own organization, I have to say, this is both insulting and ironic. Fury estimated that this was what Su-Chen wanted to see. Su-Chen has such a bad taste. But thinking of Su-Chen's fighting power, Fury salivated and gritted his teeth. MD, done. So, I chose an early morning the next day and arrived at the S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters early. Fury sighed as he looked at the crowded S.H.I.E.L.D. MD, you're so careless. You forgot that these people are all day-to-day workers, so rest is non-existent. With a depressed mood, Fury walked into the elevator with a pinhole camera. Looking at the employees coming and going in the elevator, Fury looked melancholy. But in the eyes of others, he seems to be in a bad mood, in order to avoid being called to perform impossible tasks. So it scared away many employees. But suddenly a figure appeared in front of Fury. This person is none other than Alexander Pierce, his former boss and part-time teacher. At this time, Alexander was handing over some tasks with Bullock, the captain of S.H.I.E.L.D's special team. Since I saw Fury, I didn't discuss it in detail. At this time, Fury thought to himself, it's over. If the conditions are implemented, I'm afraid this time it will be cold and I won't be able to get rid of it. Or give up this shooting. But Su-Chen was forced to put many restrictions in this shooting. Once it starts, it cannot be ended, so as to avoid unequal treaties such as personal arrangements and acting. Fury's worries are not unnecessary. After all, being a magician has too many mysterious spells, making it difficult for ordinary people like him to resist. But human nature is always greedy. So Fury passed the people in front and walked behind Alexander. Pierce, don't move. I want the most valuable thing on your body. Fury suddenly said to Alexander. This sudden plot couldn't help but make Alexander's anus tighten. I secretly thought that Fury might have discovered something. Just when he was about to ask what happened, he saw a huge bald black head appearing next to his ear. Hydra hail. A sudden sentence rang in his ears. The sound was very small, and others might not be able to hear it, but he could hear it. And after hearing this sentence, I was so stressed that I fell into a state of shock. Who am I, where I am, and what did he say? But Fury's words directly made him regard Fury as one of his own. What did you just say? Give him the most valuable thing you have. Avengers roster. No, this is obvious. He wants HYDRA's weapon technology, scientific research and personnel information on me. This information was obtained by Brock from other Hydra bases, and he still had it in his hands. But Hydra people don't care about this. So Alexander turned around directly. Fury thought Alexander was going to ask someone to arrest him, so he gave up resisting. The result was unexpected at the end. Hydra hail. The same simple sentence also rang in Fury's ears. But the words were not lowered. Everyone present heard clearly that when Fury's brain was still thinking about the Big Bang, Alexander took out a USB flash drive and stuffed it into Fury's hand. Fury had no expression on his face and pressed the number for the next floor of the elevator, under the calm eyes of everyone. Got out of the elevator. But every step Fury takes feels like needles. The moment the elevator closed, Fury's face fell, and his expression became solemn. The only look in his eyes was full of disbelief. What just happened? Is this Su-Chen's ultimate goal? Are you trying to hint to me in a subtle way that there is a mole in our shield? But this news was too exciting for me. Alexander is also a Hydra, he is also a senior executive of S.H.I.E.L.D. No one in the elevator responded, so how badly did he penetrate S.H.I.E.L.D.? How many eyes does he have? Fury feels like S.H.I.E.L.D. is terrible from beginning to end. Are the agents here fighting to protect the world, or working hard to achieve the great revival of Hydra? For a long time, Fury tried his best to pretend that he was from Hydra. At the same time, he is also investigating whether anyone around him is from Hydra. At this time Alexander's USB flash drive played a big role. So the agent leader relied on his superb acting skills to survive in this exposed snake's nest. During this investigation, he discovered that S.H.I.E.L.D. was about to be hollowed out. 9 of the people in S.H.I.E.L.D. were Hydra people. Fury couldn't help but blush. He was the king of agents. The enemy didn't even notice him. As the saying goes, before you fight against the outside world, you must first make peace with the inside. Although Nick Fury may not have heard this sentence, they understand the same truth. Your home is a mess and you must put it in order. The top priority is to eliminate the hidden dangers inside. Nick Fury brought it up without much fanfare, after seeing Phil Coulson return from duty. You should do a civil service job. So Ju-young's most trusted Phil Coulson and Hill formed a secret civilian team. The team members are all newcomers with no background and no reputation, and they are responsible for investigating who is inside S.H.I.E.L.D. It would have been better not to investigate. After this investigation, Nick Fury's heart suddenly went cold. Trident headquarters has also become a snake's nest. As a result, all the people promoted by former director Pierce, regardless of their position, were on his blacklist, making Phil Coulson's team's investigation even more secretive. Although this kind of sneaky investigation will miss many fish, the terminally ill S.H.I.E.L.D. has no other choice. In a weak situation, this is the safest and most secure way. So this resulted in Phil Coulson not having recovered from the survival game and devoting himself to the work of 007. Go to work at 0 o'clock and get off work at 0 o'clock, working for 7 consecutive days. No Cole boss is as evil as Fury. After returning to the holy place, Su Chen took his trophy Mjolnir and put it into his collection room. Nice. In the future, I will fill this collection room with collections unique to the Marvel world. Looking at the collection room full of props, Su Chen couldn't help but sigh. I haven't signed in today yet, but the system signed me in here. Ding. Congratulations to the host for getting a Shiba Inu. This is Hong Qigong's most beloved son, please take good care of her. Otherwise he and his time chicken will carry tens of thousands of kilometers of ship-cutting knives across countless dimensions to chat with you about life. Close black lens bracket. With a flash of white light, Su Chen saw an adorable Shiba Inu with its tongue sticking out. The biggest difference from ordinary dogs is that he wears a red cloak and a collar with 3 buttons. Before Su Chen could say anything, Icarus ran up and played with the Shiba Inu with the cat grass. What's your name, little dog? This is a dog raised by a boss who can transcend dimensions and can talk without saying too much. I saw the puppy pressing the first button on its neck. I am Thor. There should be emoticons here. Close black lens bracket. When Shiba Inu finished these words, Mjolnir, which was collected by Su Chen, moved strangely. Flying directly towards the Shiba Inu, while the Shiba Inu held Mjolnir high, the whole New York was filled with wind, lightning and thunder. It seems to be welcoming the arrival of their king. A bolt of lightning fell on Thor, and a simple armor was put on the dog's body. Then the Shiba Inu quickly pressed the first and second keys. I am Thor, for the honor of the men of the North. There is no need for Su Chen to guess now. This guy is the protagonist in the 100,000 bad jokes. Thor, MD, I sent away the stupid Thor, and now here comes another Thor. I am destined to be with Thor. At this time, Odin, who was far away in Asgard, felt something and looked at the earth. Hey, he sighed helplessly. Just think of it as a gift in return for your advice to Asgard. Just call me Thor. Su Chen picked up the Shiba Inu and rubbed his head. Woof woof woof. I am Thor. Okay, I'll take it as your consent. Woof woof woof. Thor was wagging his tail crazily, with such a frequency that even the propeller was spinning. But in the next moment, the cute Shiba Inu showed its fangs and roared at the window. Seeing that he could no longer hide, the person at the window immediately jumped out. This is a man carrying 2 swords on his back, and his whole body is covered in a red and black tights, tightly wrapped. It looks so good. Su Chen looked at the person in front of him and couldn't help but shuddered, thinking of a bad name. Deadpool, one of the 3 loudmouths in the Marvel world, with the ability to break dimensional walls and talk. Hey, young magician, long time no see. Deadpool drew out the 2 knives from his back and spoke to himself. No, we have never met before. Do it again. Wow wow wow. What did I see? A big magician, a superhero. What kind of hero is it? Magician hero, warrior hero, or light cannon hero? Quote. Su Chen, God bless you, you are finally back. I have been squatting here with you for 4 or 5 days. My big penis has been blocked several times. If I hadn't blocked it just now, I would definitely spray you in the face today. Fortunately, I finally came back today. If you don't come back, I'll have to show this pile of rotten meat to my girlfriend. Su Chen didn't speak, but his face was very dark. He also covered Icarus's eyes. Children should not watch this kind of scene. No wonder the X-Men wanted to sew this guy's mouth shut. This mouth. This must be a strategic weapon. Taunt level max. But what puzzles Su Chen is why this guy came to find him. I probably have no contact with him or even the X-Men. Baby, come and be pampered by me, so I can exchange you for the bounty. Then I'll give my girlfriend a beautiful one for tonight. Deadpool suddenly appeared with a pair of swords and appeared in front of Su Chen at a speed that was almost impossible for humans. Teleportation belt, however, the dog was still able to react quickly, and Thor easily blocked it. Man, where did you buy this dog? I'll buy one and keep one when I have time. Deadpool said after a long jump with his missing hand. I am Thor. Woof. Are you Thor? It turns out that people in Asgard are all dogs. Deadpool complained. The Asgardians seemed offended. Thor shocks him. As soon as Su Chen finished speaking, Thor hit the ground with a hammer. A thunder and lightning spread. A direct hit on Deadpool. The powerful electric current directly paralyzed Deadpool. Along with this, his feet were turned into ashes. Hey, man, I don't need electrotherapy, why do you want to paralyze me? Are you greedy for my body? Let me tell you, there is no way. I've seen too many pretty boys like you. Asterisk. The forbidden word, asterisk, and came out of Deadpool's mouth. Deadpool. Don't tell others, for those of you who didn't see Uncle Dow squirting 3 times yesterday, I feel sorry for you. Close black lens bracket. Quote. Su Chen, I'd better kill him directly. So Su Chen used 18 kinds of torture. As a result, Deadpool is still alive. As expected of someone who was cursed by Thanos. Not only does your mouth have the ability to max, but your resilience is also max. Brother, can you help me put on a pair? Although the gentleman is gentle and the villain hides his penis, I really have no interest in you. Su Chen. Finally, Su Chen found the information he wanted through the amazing brain circuits with Deadpool. It turns out that I caused a big riot in Manhattan before, causing many businessmen to go bankrupt. I didn't think about it for a while. Then we all raised money together and came up with 5 small goals. Finally ended up on the dark web. The black web contains some black markets, and most of them publish some mercenary missions and killer missions. You can even see some tasks issued by Country M as a country. There are only tasks you can't get, and there are no tasks you can't think of. So Deadpool took on the mission of these 5 small targets. Then Su Chen left the holy place with his front foot and arrived here with his back foot. Since he didn't see Su Chen, out of his dedication to the killer, he squatted here to guard the house. So I stayed at this holy place until Su Chen came back. The most important thing is that some handymen in the holy place haven't found Deadpool for several days. Su Chen feels that the staff at holy place are too unprofessional and should be retrained. Hey, is it Fury? What did you do? There are my photo stickers on the black market. You shield don't want to be around anymore. Believe it or not, I will physically destroy your shield tomorrow. After sewing Deadpool's mouth shut, Su Chen dialed Fury's phone. My wanted list has been posted on the internet, and every day in the middle of the night, someone would disturb my sleep by putting a GPR outside the holy place. Thinking about it makes me feel sick. Su Chen thinks he has to teach these people a lesson. On the other side of the phone, Fury is currently looking at the list of Hydra members that Phil Coulson compiled for himself. It was originally done secretly, but Su Chen called me and shocked me. I thought Alexander had discovered me. This moment came at the wrong time, and it almost broke his heart. But he still answered the phone, and what followed was a burst of abuse from him. Dang, S.H.I.E.L.D. can't even control a black website, what a piece of rubbish. That's it in general. You trash, S.H.I.E.L.D. trash. You are all rubbish. It seems that Su Chen's taunting skills have also been upgraded due to Deadpool's words. But these words were automatically filtered in Fury's eyes. It seems that if the three big talkers in the world were not the ones taking action, Fury might not be able to be punished. And what Fury is thinking now is, why would you come to me for such a trivial matter? You must know that what I do is all big things, the kind that can easily lead to being shattered into pieces. That's it. Well, it doesn't seem to be a big problem for Su Chen. However, you said that you, a magician from a monastery, can't protect the earth in secret, so is it really okay to destroy it while not doing your job for a day? Isn't it because someone is assassinating you? If you can be assassinated on Earth based on your strength, that's because you are not good enough. If the other party assassinates you and breaks your defense, this kind of person will definitely give him up. Then a special combat team was set up to deal with Su Chen. I don't care if he is a killer. Couldn't the killer recruit someone close to S.H.I.E.L.D. as an agent? You know, now I won't even let the devil go. The African chief's current plan to rectify S.H.I.E.L.D. is not complicated. First, make a list of Hydra members within S.H.I.E.L.D., and launch a thunderous force to clean up the Trident headquarters. Then irradiate the surrounding area and eliminate other parts one by one. He did not immediately arrest Alexander and other high-level officials. He kept silent just so that he could retain more of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s vitality after the purge and prevent the organization from disbanding. And the most important power among them is Ghost Rider. With his help things will be solved easily. Fury wouldn't dare drag Dada without Johnny, so hard work. I'll ask my men to cancel the assassination on the dark web later. You didn't really come to chat with me just for this matter. Definitely not. I'm also curious if you actually yelled Hydra Hail in the elevator. Su Chen changed her calm look and said excitedly. Enemy of life and death, I suspect that you are an undercover agent. In fact, I am the undercover script. The imagination is exciting. When the enemy discovers that he is trying his best to get rid of his own opponent, the scene makes him laugh. So exciting. This scene is definitely comparable to Loki turning into the third princess and being entangled with Thor. The former irritates the eyes of the latter. Yes, I will send you this record later, but I can't do it these days. There are a lot of things to deal with. I hope you can keep your promise too. That's for sure. Who did you say this to? I'm very curious. Fury gritted his teeth and one of his teeth broke. It's Alexander Pierce. Su Chen was dumbfounded when he heard the name. Lu Dan, your luck in life has been exhausted. Is there anyone else with this kind of character? It's a miracle that you are still alive. Sure enough, what do you know? You really wanted to see me make a fool of myself. You did it very successfully. But then he said, although it makes you unhappy, I still thank you. Thank you, no need. Send me the video quickly to get down to business. The finished shield was barely out of the garbage and turned into recyclable garbage. There was an electric current sound coming from the phone. Fury on the other side couldn't hold it in anymore, and he immediately blew up the phone. Just wait, I will develop S.H.I.E.L.D. into a super organization famous throughout the universe. Su Chen hung up the phone and looked at the tied-up Deadpool. His mood, which was originally about tax evasion, suddenly worsened. You can't smash this thing into your own hands, it's disgusting. Su Chen thought for a while and suddenly thought of X College. It seems that I haven't visited Yao X Academy yet. Why not go see Professor? Come on, kids, let's go to X Academy. Not far from a holy place in New York City, there is a seemingly ordinary school. In a room of huge amounts of metal, a man in a suit and a wheelchair. Do you think he is bald? Definitely not, and he was still a young man. He was taking off the helmet on his head. Hank, we are going to welcome a new guest. The young man said to a giant blue-haired cat behind him. Guest, aren't you looking for the latest awakening child? Could it be that the other party is also a spiritual one? Has he contacted you? The blue-haired Hank was surprised and said that if the professor's position can be tracked using a brainwave strengthening device, then this person is definitely very powerful. Could it be that the new mutant is a level 5 mutant? If that's the case, then they have to find him quickly, without letting the evil Magneto find him first. It's not what you think. Some idiot mutant provoked a strong man. The professor rubbed his head, feeling like he was going to be exhausted by these mutants. Any hair loss in the future must be caused by these people. Su Chen took Icarus and a Shiba Inu, dragging a sack containing Deadpool to the X Academy next door. I went there. I didn't expect that there would be such a big manor in this place in New York where land is so valuable. I have to say that Professor X has a rich family background. In a world where making money is not easy in the United States, the ways to make money have been written in a booklet called The Federal Constitution of the United States. Professors have no formal way to make money, but they support so many people. I have to say that professors are quite prodigal. After all, the scientific research level of the college is not low, and the daily consumption of scientific research is definitely not low. And there is no fixed income. The professor has been squandering money in New York for so many years, but his family is still rich, which is enough to prove his father's earning level and ability to save money. It is definitely a breath of fresh air in the environment of the United States. Compared to Kamar-Taj, this ability to attract money is completely inferior. The Ancient One's 500-year-old family background can't be compared to a family that has been passed down for hundreds of years. Bad review. When Su Chen arrived at the manor, the door slowly opened. Several figures immediately appeared inside. Blue-haired Hank, codenamed Beast, I know. Who is in the wheelchair in front of him? Young people, have hair, in a wheelchair. This is not at all in line with the image of a professor in Su Chen's mind. Why do you have hair and not a bald head? Su Chen asked subconsciously. Maybe I'm not old enough yet, so I still have long hair. Professor X was not angry, he smiled calmly. But if he hadn't been unable to defeat Su Chen, with his temper, he would have taken care of her. Legendary magician, it's an honor to meet you. I wonder what brings you to my humble residence. Su Chen looked at the younger version of the professor and couldn't help but think, this professor has such a good temper. Judging from his hair, he probably hasn't been beaten by the oldest mutant in the world yet. Puff puff. At this time, the bag Su Chen was dragging tore open a hole, and Deadpool's head came out of it. I finally held it in. Hey, here, I went and what did I see? It was someone other than Colossus and the Warhead. The crew is so rich, they can actually hire other members of the X-Men. Professor, didn't you want to invite me to join the X-Men before? I agreed. Hurry up, let this guy release me, and let Ty clean up a little bit. I want to trust him. Quote. Asterisk 3. Woo 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 woo. Deadpool died. The professor also had to admit that Deadpool's mouth was really poisonous. The professor was very suspicious whether Deadpool's ability to talk was also a mutant power. And it has reached level 5. A person as strong as him at the 4th level can't help but break his skills. The purpose of my coming here is actually very simple. The first is to find a place to lock this guy up. I don't want to see this guy anymore. After saying that, Su Chen threw the Deadpool to Beast. Deadpool is not only an eyesore, but also hot to the touch. If you are unlucky, you may have a face-to-face interaction with the goddess of death. It's absolutely no problem. After all, Deadpool is also a mutant from a fundamental perspective. We have the obligation to educate him well. The professor agreed immediately, but he was actually a little nervous looking at Deadpool. Deadpool doesn't say he's strong, but it's disgusting. If the education is really bad, then let him fight with Colossus on the bayonet. The second thing is that as a good neighbor of yours for many years, I haven't visited you yet, so I came here specifically to take a look today. You must know that there are some cute girls in X Academy, unlike Kamar-Taj, a group of rough guys. There is no sentiment at all. None of them are as cute as Icarus. It would also be good if there is an opportunity to recruit a few excellent seeds, such as Phoenix Force or something. Su Chen also wants to form his own team. Now there is Archer Icarus. As for Thor, let him fight like crazy. Why do you think the Shiba Inu is so cute? A shot of rabies will cure you. Are you saying this is not serious? So how many job agencies have you seen in Holy Grail that are serious? So Berserker Thor, there will be another junior brother, Doctor Strange, in the future, and he will be brought over when the time comes. Make up a caster magician Doctor Strange. Looking at it this way, we still need swordsman, saber, lancer, cavalry, rider, and assassin. Then we'll see which job agency is still missing. Su Chen said that she can do it all. Hey, if the staff is full, then you have to do the master. Are you saying this is not Marvel at all? Just be happy, it's none of your business. Thinking of this, Su Chen couldn't help but feel happy. It's better to choose a day than to hit it, so sign in here. Ding, congratulations to the host for obtaining a special super ability, the electric shock user. Quote? The electric light dancing on your fingertips is my unchanging faith in this life. Is it because of Mjolnir that the signings in the past 2 days are all about thunder and lightning abilities? Please like and subscribe. Chapter 51. As soon as Su Chen entered, he saw Storm, Cyclops, Chin Gray, and the most prominent one, Wolverine. These 4 people rushed from the classroom to the professor. At this time, Wolverine's image completely destroyed the tall image of Wolverine in the movie. Hugh Jackman is 1.8 centimeters tall, while this Wolverine is only 1.6 meters tall. For people in the United States, a girl of 1.6 meters is considered short, let alone an adult man. This man, who was about the same height as the soldier commander, stood in front of Storm, who was 1.8 meters tall. He was a full head behind him, and even Chin was a head taller than him. No wonder Jean's official boyfriend is Cyclops. So similar. There are some big men who like to be looked down upon every day, especially their beloved goddesses, who have to sit on the bench for every kiss. Hurt your self-esteem. And if Wolverine is the figure in the comics, then Sabretooth is really over 2 meters tall. No wonder Stryker chose Logan instead of Sabretooth when he made the X-weapon. Just because Logan is shorter, it can save a lot of Elman alloy. Can save a lot of money. It's too far away. Professor, the little naughty girl is missing. I've searched all over the school and haven't seen her yet. Rascal. Su Chen thought about it for a moment, and then remembered this girl. Her ability was very special. Her skin could absorb other people's life energy on its own. If she were a mutant, she would also have that person's superpower. He is a cruel person. However, this ability to absorb is only temporary. As soon as she lets go of her hand, the ability gained will disappear. And because it absorbs life energy, if she comes into contact with the little naughty person for a long time, she will be sucked to death. If he could perfectly absorb other people's super abilities, the little naughty boy would definitely become the pig's foot of the X-Men, or become the ultimate boss. The little naughty boy disappeared as soon as he came. Could it be that he has the legendary workforce physique? Generally speaking, when encountering this kind of situation, it is correct to avoid it. After all, there is no benefit. Anyone with a normal mind will stay away from mutants regardless of their differences. But there are always people who will. Sheila G. This man is very dangerous. He disappeared as soon as he came to Naughty. I suspect that this matter has something to do with him. Cyclops jumped out and said. Quote? Su Chen, I'm your good neighbor, how could you frame me like this? The professor waved his hand. Things are still uncertain, so don't make any arbitrary comments. I'm going to use the brain strengthening device to get the little naughty thing back. So everyone went straight to the round sphere-like brainwave strengthening room. As expected by Su Chen, the current brain strengthening device has been added by Magneto's subordinate Mystique. After using the brainwave strengthener, the professor fell into coma. However, no one is weak. They found him on the spot and rescued him in time. Looking at the professor, who was blinking but looked no different from a vegetative state, a sad atmosphere suddenly filled the air. At this time, everyone was young, and the professor was older than them. For those who had taken care of them since childhood, the professor was more than just a teacher. More like a young father. And it's also the landline number of this group of people. No, it's the leader. The professor's coma was definitely a blow to them. It's definitely this guy. As soon as he comes, we will have a problem. Everyone, catch him. Everyone swarmed forward, trying to capture Su Chen. Bang bang bang. Storm, Chin, Cyclops die. Beast, why don't you come? Cyclops asked loudly. It's all a misunderstanding, Beast said helplessly. Zhang is still very old. After all, he is the first person to accompany the professor. If he is not good at it, he really can't get along. He had already guessed Su Chen's identity. His small arms and legs were not big enough for someone to fill his teeth. And what surprised Su Chen the most was that Wolverine didn't hang out with them. I've known for a long time that our enemy is Magneto. Magneto captures the naughty boy and realizes his plan at the expense of the little naughty boy. If Magneto doesn't have him, why should I join him? Logan, who has the best relationship with Rugrat, has a different attitude from Chin and others on this matter. Something happened to this professor, and I'm curious. You are an academic family with a huge business, and you have almost gathered most of the mutants. You don't have a super ability that can restore healing abilities. You know, even a small group like the Talented Ones has a nanny, right? You guys, it seems that apart from being stronger than the Aegis in terms of combat power, everything else seems to be much inferior to it. Looking at this group of people who were busy without the professor, Su Chen couldn't help but think that mutants seemed to have no one who could be useful except the professor and Magneto. More than enough thugs, not enough intelligence. Boy, you are crazy. Wolverine is not the three rookies. Close combat is his forte. Logan grabbed Su Chen and tried to throw Su Chen away, but when he made contact, he found that his hand felt wrong. So numb. I am Professor Yang, the King of Thunder and Lightning now. Do you dare to touch me? Su Chen controls the Electroblaster's ability to release electric current, although Wolverine's physique is at the Superman level. But even if you are powerful, you have to be paralyzed for a while. Su Chen, we will handle this matter ourselves, you'd better go back. Beast tried to smooth things over by saying that it was their own business now, and it wouldn't be easy for an outsider to take action. Handle it. Why do I feel like you guys will handle it in a mess? New York is a mess, and it doesn't do me any good. Su Chen said and released a magic whip to bind Logan in Japanese style. Why don't you ask me if you don't have treatment ability? You know, 10 magicians have 9 breasts. I can breastfeed your professor. Can you really cure the professor? After Su Chen explained, Xiaomianshan couldn't help but ask. Definitely, even if he only has one head left, I can still make him grow a body. But it can be saved, but I have a small request. Cyclops was silent for a moment as he knelt down. As long as it doesn't violate mutant or morality, we agree. After hearing what Cyclops said, Chin and the X-Men also agreed to Su Chen's rescue. I hope you will keep your promise. Although what I say is not as restrictive as Fiend's Covenant, it is not the kind that can be ignored casually. When Su Chen's hand filled with holy light slowly reached out to the professor, Cyclops was on standby. If something unexpected happens, Su Chen will be greeted by the laser. They are now like family members of patients waiting outside. If something goes wrong, they will stab the doctor with a knife. When the holy light fell, everyone finally breathed a sigh of relief when they saw the professor's eyes quickly regaining their expression. Professor, seeing Su Chen stop and step back, Cyclops rushed over. At this moment, Professor X's eyelids moved and he slowly opened his eyes. Professor, you are finally awake. Seeing Professor. I'm much better now. Professor X held Cyclops and said comfortingly. Professor. Cyclops is the successor he cultivated, but he is too easily disturbed by emotions. For a good leader, he is obviously unqualified. It seems that now is not the time for him to take charge of his own affairs. Thank you very much for the magician assistance from Kamar-Taj. The professor looked at Su Chen with gratitude in his eyes. At the same time, I once again admired the power of Su Chen. Su Chen not only has strong strength, but also has the ability to restore. He is a perfect hexagonal warrior. Unlike their mutants, Su Chen only has one ability that stands out. But the overall ability is terrible. Professor. Although I fell into a coma just now, I still read useful information. Magneto used his ability to invent an instrument that can transform ordinary people into mutants after being irradiated by this instrument. In order to retaliate against the mutant registration bill proposed by Representative Kelly and his supporters, we plan to use this instrument on Liberty Island. Quote. And because this instrument may have some flaws, the user may die due to excessive consumption, so Magneto plans to use the Little Naughty ability to let the Little Naughty absorb his own power, gain his own ability, and then let the Little Naughty take his place. Die. Quote. Why did he do this? Logan asked curiously. Because he wants the whole world to be assimilated into mutants, so that ordinary people will not reject mutants, and mutants can finally come to the stage. The professor explained, thinking to himself, Magneto's idea is really good. If the instrument was not defective, the person who was radiated might die, and the user might also die due to excessive consumption. This is definitely a great treasure. This is great, Cyclops said at this time. After all, he is a mutant. If there is a device that can turn everyone in the world into a mutant, it will be a huge benefit to them and nothing to worry about. This is not good. Magneto's invention is flawed. Although ordinary people can be turned into mutants, these people will die soon. If this device is used in New York, it will eventually kill the entire population of New York. The professor said patiently to Cyclops. That's it. Cyclops couldn't say anything. After all, under the guidance of the professor, they had become very kind. If you want to transform mutants all over the world, isn't there a simpler, safer and more effective way? You don't even need an instrument to do it. Why didn't you think of it? At this time, Su Chen came over with a sentence, which immediately silenced everyone present. Sir, what is the method? Can you share it with us? After hearing what Su Chen said, the professor said with confusion. I saw Su Chen rubbing his thumb with the index and middle fingers of his right hand, as if to say, I will not do anything without profit. If, sir, you provide an effective solution, you will gain our friendship and we will be able to help you with many things. The professor spoke. You're so sensible, Su Chen smiled and said, then I'll tell you. If you gather all the mutants, how many are there? 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, a million. Although most of the mutant abilities are not very good and are ugly, don't you mutants have good looks online? You can have children. How strong are your mutant genes? Basically, every pregnancy is accurate. 99% of the babies born will be mutants. After a few years of development, won't the whole world be full of mutants? As soon as Su Chen finished speaking, Cyclops' face turned livid. Didn't they become stallions? Cyclops is confident in its beauty. But, the professor wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Su Chen. I know what you are going to say. You said these people may have weak kidneys and may not be able to defeat thousands of wives, but aren't you right? After saying that, Su Chen pointed at Wolverine who was watching the show. Look at Wolverine's resilience. It's not a problem to directly control hundreds or even thousands of wives a year. The only problems that arise are whether you can afford to keep him and whether you can afford to hire him. So with Wolverine's resilience and giving him 20 years, he can definitely form a fighting nation in New York. I see that the students in your college are all still young, energetic, and have good genes. You can even organize them to donate sperm. With this combination, you can't let others become mothers and help you take care of mutant. Kill two birds with one stone. The mutant genes are your capital. After listening to Su Chen's words, the professor hesitated. He originally wanted to say that this was a fallacy, but after thinking about it carefully, it seemed that there was nothing wrong with Su Chen's words and it was very tempting. At this time, magical thoughts no less than the Big Bang exploded in the head of this fourth-level mutant. Professor, you won't listen to him, will you? Wolverine suddenly shouted. At first Wolverine thought it didn't matter, but what followed made him tremble and tremble all over. Isn't this a plan tailor-made with him as the core? It may be unlikely that such a peace-loving person like the professor would implement such a plan, but Magneto, an old-school fool, heard such a plan. It will definitely be carried out. Even if he fails and has no physical strength, Magneto will still use the ability to control magnetism to help him. Move. Wolverine now felt like he was in a wolf's den. The professor was still thinking, but others, like Storm and Chin, looked at him differently. She seemed to be looking down at him intentionally or unintentionally. Su Chen, you are poisonous. After hearing what Su Chen said, the professor was shocked. Sir, I will seriously consider your words. Seeing that the professor was so polite, Su Chen couldn't help but say a few words to remind him. You don't have enough population. There are at most hundreds of thousands of mutants, and there are too few people with combat power. How can you rule with just this amount of people, or resist ordinary people with a population of tens of billions? I know you want to pass a bill to improve mutants' environment, but again, your population is too small. Ordinary people think it's not worth it, and they even think they can still extract benefits from you. It's like Magneto, who fights and kills all day long and doesn't know the idea of accumulating food and slowly becoming king. He's in his 40s or 50s and still doesn't understand this. Infrastructure construction is king, and increasing population is the real thing. Just like some of the children Magneto gave birth to were fuel-efficient lamps with good genes. How could the children they gave birth to be useless? If you have time to sow a few more seeds, maybe the next day there will be an ability that can change the world even more than a bug. Isn't this more likely than him to rule by force? At this time, the professor looked at himself in a wheelchair. It's okay, I can still fight for mutant for 50 years because of you. It's not good for you to be so nice. Other politicians are old coins. They may be nice to you on the surface, but secretly they can do whatever they want to you. In the end, you have to be polite to others. If you can't defeat ordinary people, just build high walls and accumulate food, and slowly become king. Then when the opportunity is right, if he is in trouble, you can go east to Hangu to compete in the Central Plains, and dare to ask for the title. Why can't mutants stand up and be the master? Why can't you, the United States, become the boss? You should do it. Mutant has the final say whether the United States is in chaos or not. At this time, they won't dare to mess with you at will. Su Chen said seriously. What if you ask those politicians who disobey? Su Chen still has one most important thing to say. If they don't reason with you, you can give them a good beating. If not, then beat him up and then reason with them. This is the essence of these words. Professor, I'll give you a good baby. After Su Chen finished speaking, he took out a copy of 5,000 Years of the World from his arms. Then he handed it to the professor. Using bronze mirrors as a mirror can help you to dress properly, using people as a mirror can help you know gains and losses, and using history as a guide can help you know your rise and fall. This book profoundly explains how Lelau coins are made. This statement is too direct, but it is also a bit more subtle. When the sky is strong, a gentleman will strive for self-improvement. When the terrain is good, a gentleman will carry things with kindness. It is so down to earth. I just want you to stop growing up and let your fists get bigger. Then I will come out and talk. So Professor, do you want to learn to rebel? I have many similar books here, which are guaranteed to open your mind and increase your success rate. The professor shook his head after hearing these words. Su Chen sighed helplessly. It seems that this kind of book is probably only more attractive to Magneto. Inhaling, tightening his abdomen, and zipping up, Wolverine frowned and patted his chest. He felt that the clothes were a little tight underneath. Logan silently glanced at Stormgirl and Chin, but found that there was no discomfort on their faces. Was he the only one who felt this way? So I really want to wear this, Logan said hesitantly. You are now a member of the X-Men, so you have to wear this, or do you still want to wear that antique yellow tights? Cyclops said resentfully. Due to the plan Su Chen mentioned, Chin, who is now his goddess and girlfriend, is now taking a secret look at Wolverine. And the teacher Su Chen is also sitting on the plane now. It seems that I also want to see Magneto, the supervillain in Marvel. The roar of the plane sounded outside, and the playground outside was fully opened. Illegal use of land, private renovation of basement, sentenced. And if you take off so openly, aren't you afraid that the military will detect it? Almost every country has strict control over the air. Unidentified objects flying around New York without permission will probably be shot down 80% of the time. If we are so inferior, we deserve to be shot down. Cyclops said and pressed a button in front of him. It was also the first time for Su Chen to make an airplane. She had never used it during her last business trip with Phil Coulson. After all, if you're a magician and you can use portals, who wants to fly on a plane? Then the plane disappeared at an extremely fast speed and could be said to have become invisible. At this time, Su Chen thought that in Dark Phoenix, the space agency launched a spacecraft, but it ended up being trapped in the universe. However, the small flight machine of X Academy can quickly travel between the Earth and the universe. The technological content is obviously not as high as theirs. Why should we stick to our own research and development? With a professor's attitude, Su Chen felt that they could use mutants' technology for free. The Academy and Liberty Island are both in New York, but one is close to the suburbs and the other is in the central area of the city. Therefore, within a few minutes after taking off, everyone had already arrived at their destination. Even Su Chen just passed by his holy place. There is also the ruins of Manhattan that have not yet been built. Manhattan is now filled with water. Prepare to build a theme park on it. After all, the foundation in that area is no longer usable. The cost of restoring the economic zone is too high, but building a theme park will make it easier. After crossing this bridge, we are about to reach our destination. Cyclops controlled the plane and passed under the bridge at low altitude. Storm Girl, take cover, Cyclops said without looking back. Right away, Storm Girl said, her eyes turned white in an instant, and at the moment the weather outside also began to change by huge amounts, and white fog visible to the naked eye rose at the moment. After entering this white fog area, thunder also began to sound. Storm Girl can control the weather, and it is easy for her to create such weather changes. With the help of thunder and lightning and white fog, the plane quickly arrived near Liberty Island. At the moment, near the Statue of Liberty Island, Magneto, who was wearing a red and black robe with black hair, also noticed the mist rising from the river. Calling others to pay attention, it seems our guests have arrived. Hearing what Magneto said, a big man behind him who looked like a golden lion king turned around to walk out, but was stopped after taking a few steps. Sabretooth, you stay here, the little girl will become very weak when I pass my ability to it, you come and protect me. Sabretooth, who is 2 meters tall, obviously has a low IQ. He stood aside honestly after hearing Magneto's words. In the past, Sabretooth was still online even though his IQ was not high, but I don't know why. IQ dropped to the brink. Wolverine has amnesia and Sabretooth has lost his mind. Really brothers. But looking at Sabretooth who is 2 meters tall, and Wolverine who is 1.6 meters tall. Who is not biological? A woman's voice came from the other side. Eric, I didn't feel Charles's mental probing. It seems that Charles has not come. Is that so? It seems that Mystique successfully delivered the little gift I made. Magneto stared at the fog outside and said with a complicated expression. Did you kill him? No. Based on what I know about him, that little thing can't kill him. The most it can do is let him sleep a little longer and lose some hair. Magneto smiled slightly, obviously thinking of the happy time of his good gay friend. Although Charles and I have different views and practices, I have never denied Charles's contribution to mutant. He is an outstanding mutant fighter and my only close friend. The person who least wants him to die in the world is definitely I. At this time, I saw a woman with a crystal-clear body and a body like a diamond walking out of the darkness. Next to him was a man with red skin that looked like a demon. We have no interest in the entanglement between you and Charles. We are here to help you deal with Charles and integrate the power of mutant. Diamond Man White Queen stretched her body and said. The entire United States has been in chaos recently. First, most of Manhattan was destroyed, and then New Mexico disappeared. If we don't integrate the power of mutant, we may very well disappear into the dust of history. White Queen said worriedly, if he hadn't been interested in Magneto's strength, he wouldn't have wanted to wade into this muddy water. According to his existing information, every word reveals that he should not set foot in New York. You have to understand, you're not helping me, you're helping the entire mutant. I hope there won't be such an accident, otherwise I will have to let the Red Devil take us away. The White Queen left a way out so that if something unexpected happened, the Red Devil could take them away. Don't worry, there are only a few children taught by Charles. There will be no danger. Magneto looked towards the thick fog and could still feel the plane even though it was far away. If he hadn't been worried about killing those mutants, Magneto would have easily crushed the plane. The spaceship is preparing to land. 3, 2, boom. The spacecraft shook for a moment and then suddenly fell into the water. Cyclops, are you a female driver? You can't even fly a plane. Su Chen complained. This was Su Chen's worst experience in flying. Sorry, Cyclops said awkwardly. The technology is really bad. After Logan glanced at Cyclops with disdain, he unbuckled his seatbelt, turned and walked towards the door of the ship. The group of people waded through the water and successfully reached Liberty Island and entered the Statue of Liberty. The base of the Statue of Liberty is actually a museum with a very spacious interior and an elevator that leads to the top. I smell the enemy's scent. Logan showed off his handsome claws. Looking at Wolverine's claws, Su Chen couldn't help but want that pair for her collection. Do you dare to say that after watching Wolverine, you don't have the memory of taking out 3 pens and using them as claws? Dare I say that after watching Dragon Ball, I haven't touched the tail vertebrae to see if a tail has grown? Woof. The dog Thor expressed his dissatisfaction with the sense of smell. I'm a wolf, not a dog. Logan competes with dogs on their sense of smell. Su Chen ignored Thor and Logan's seriousness. Instead, Icarus and I visited the museum, looking like we were traveling. I have wanted to visit this Statue of Liberty museum for a long time, but unfortunately the tickets are too expensive. I didn't expect to be able to experience it today. When I saw the goddess statue before, I always wanted to replace the torch. Let's see if there's a chance to replace that torch with ice cream. If the people of the United States knew what Su Chen was thinking and who did it, many people would probably throw eggs at the holy place tomorrow. Although I don't want to fight, I would like to visit for free. Su Chen said how could he let it go, after all, he would be charged for coming tomorrow. Sir, please be careful and safe, we will set off first. When Su Chen came in, he was just wandering around like a tourist. Storm Girl couldn't help but remind her. Okay, you can do whatever you want, I can take a look at it. Call me when you're done. Su Chen turned around and said to everyone. After saying that, everyone ignored Su Chen and rushed upstairs minding their own business. As a result, Su Chen was searching for treasures downstairs to see if she could pick up any fish that slipped through the net. There's a lot of commotion up there. Hey hey hey. Boom. There was silence. Suddenly Su Chen felt like someone had knocked him on the head. Could this feeling be that someone is mentally invading me? As a magician, Su Chen's mental strength is definitely not bad. After all, it is a basic course, and Su Chen also has skills such as Soul Astral. Normally, there are countless layers of mental defense barriers. Obviously someone wants to invade Su Chen's mind. Woof. The Shiba Inu with a sharp nose immediately discovered the enemy. Mjolnir slammed the ground, and a powerful electric current directly hit the target. I didn't expect that in X-Men, there would be some people who slipped through the net. Suddenly a woman made of diamonds came out. Are you the White Queen? Seeing the state of this woman, the White Queen is probably the only one with diamonds all over her body in Marvel. Looking at these White Queens in rough condition, Su Chen guessed that their organization must be very rich. In other words, the nuclear submarine in X-Men Chapter 1 was obtained by selling the White Queen. Use the ability wireless Matryoshka doll that turns into a diamond. Looking at the White Queen Su Chen in front of me, people who know the X-Men are probably feeling cold. It seems that my name is quite popular. Little guy, are you interested in coming to our hellfire? There is no future with Charles. The White Queen slowly walked towards Su Chen, the diamonds on her body shining charmingly under the light. I'm not interested. Even if you want to recruit me, you have to ask my boss if he agrees. Boss? White Queen asked doubtfully. I told you, you don't know. Come on Thor, let me see your strength. Woof, I am Thor. Upon hearing Su Chen's order, Thor rushed towards the White Queen without hesitation. Mjolnir was raised high and faced directly in the White Queen's face. Boom. The White Queen couldn't withstand Thor's terrifying power, so she smashed several walls and flew backwards. White Queen's fighting skills are very strong, and she has also developed a set of fighting skills specifically to match her diamond form to exert greater power. But White Queen is designed against humans and even humanoid creatures, and what is the enemy? It's a Shiba Inu. Boom. The White Queen climbed out of the ruins. Her body turned into a solid diamond, and she could withstand this small collision. At this time, Thor saw that the other party could still stand up. His fangs suddenly appeared on his face, and thunder and lightning flashed across his body. Woof. Tiger pounces on food. Thor transformed into a tiger, and the White Queen seemed to become the prey. He was helpless against Thor's attack. Can mutant genes be transplanted into animals now? Or is this dog a human? White Queen said to Su Chen while dodging. It seems you still have some energy left. Thor adds firepower. Wow, Thor activated the power of thunder and lightning, and his body speed immediately increased. His ability to control lightning is not inferior to Asgard's Thor. Boom! The surrounding objects were all destroyed in Thor's thunder and lightning. For the honor of the northern god, Thor took advantage of the break in the fight and pressed the recording on his neck. With one blow, everything around him was torn apart instantly, and the powerful impact directly destroyed most of the museum. As for White Queen, the center of the explosion of power was directly knocked unconscious by this powerful attack. Before falling into coma, White Queen finally remembered who the man in front of her was. Now he just wants to say, "Please take a clearer satellite photo next time, otherwise you won't be able to recognize it." Fortunately, his diamond defense was still good, so he barely managed to save his life. But if Thor were stronger, even if the diamond was the hardest, it would still turn into glass. Looking at the unconscious White Queen, Su Chen had no intention of picking up the body. Let's leave this to the X-Men. Su Chen also feels that mutants should have an inexplicable tacit understanding. There are conflicts on both sides, but the core interests are the same. So if you catch a mutant here and there, you won't kill him, and if you catch a guy like Bai over there, you won't kill him. Not many people will die due to internal friction. And they can cooperate with each other at critical times. Su Chen saw that there had been no movement for most of the day. Could it be that it was cold? So as soon as I went up, I saw a shocking scene. This is a scene of being tied up. This is not Ribbon, why are you tied up like this? At this time, Storm Girl's neck, hands and feet were clasped with steel, and she was posed in a large font. Chin and Cyclops were lying on their sides facing each other. As for Wolverine, his fists were clasped in front of his chest, looking like a little show. Are you planning to make a performance art debut? Su Chen looked speechlessly at the X-Men neatly mounted on the wall and couldn't help but complain. If you think it's indecent, you can put us down first. Logan said speechlessly. Be careful behind you. Storm reminded him immediately when he saw someone behind Su Chen. But before he finished speaking, the man pounced on Su Chen. Sabretooth, who was 2 meters tall, was knocked away by the dog Thor before he could even get close. You are Sabretooth, you look so wild. You have to be good, I will give you a piece of cat grass to play with later. Looking at this burly man, Su Chen felt that pets should be petite and cute. Just like Thor, he can act cute and fight. It is simply a must-have pet when traveling, killing people and setting fire. Not like Sabretooth, fierce and weak at the same time. Roar! Sabretooth was immediately angered and wanted to attack Su Chen directly like a reckless man. But no matter how he rushed towards Su Chen, he was blocked by Thor. If it weren't for his strong recovery ability, he would have stopped eating long ago. However, in order to avoid trouble, Su Chen opened a space door and threw him directly to the North Pole. This is truly 100 days of wilderness survival. Dignity Sabretooth, why have you become such a fool? Su Chen sighed, then turned around and said to Logan. Isn't he your brother? Why is there such a big gap? Logan glanced at Su Chen and said nothing. He just smiled awkwardly and pretended that he didn't hear anything. Aren't you too good at it? It's only been a few minutes and you're already done with it. Where's the boss? It's on top of the Statue of Liberty's torch. I'm afraid he's about to start the instrument, Cyclops said. As if to verify his words, the top of the torch suddenly exploded, and an instrument was displayed at this time. Sitting among the instruments is an ordinary girl. This girl is naturally a naughty girl. Magneto was standing next to her, holding hands with the girl. After coming into contact with Magneto's skin, the little naughty boy began to absorb Magneto's super ability. At the moment, young Magneto, clearly looked like he had been squeezed dry by the little naughty man. His face was pale, and he looked like he had been squeezed 7 times in a row, but even so, he was still stubborn and unwilling to let go of the little naughty man. With his hand, he started the instrument with difficulty. There is quite a bit of a bittersweet drama in it. At the moment, the young Magneto looked like he had been squeezed dry by the naughty boy, but he was still stubborn and unwilling to let go of the naughty boy's hand, and started the instrument with difficulty. I saw a vertical iron ring spinning rapidly around the little naughty boy and Magneto, and white light began to pour out from the instrument. It was said to be white light, but if you look closely, it looked more like a white liquid light group. It expands very slowly, but it can be seen that as the white light group increases, its expansion speed also becomes faster. And in the light ball, the little naughty boy was shouting in pain, and a strand of hair on his forehead could be vaguely seen, turning white at a speed visible to the naked eye. I said, Magneto, don't you take me too seriously. This is New York. Looking at the ball of light that had arrived in front of him, Su Chen said to himself. Although this light group can give people super abilities, Su Chen is not interested at all. He already has the super ability of being an electric shock user, can he still give himself vector control? Mutant may be the next level of Marvel's human evolution, but you can also choose not to evolve. Remember in the movie, Sentry and most of the mutants were eliminated, although it was unlikely to defeat Su Chen. Having the mutant gene is equivalent to having a weakness. After humans studied the secrets of the X gene, they developed special genetically modified crops. These highly promoted special genetically modified crops are made into various foods. Mutants will become weak or even die after eating them, and the X gene of potential awakeners will also be suppressed. Obviously Su Chen doesn't want to have such an obvious weakness. And one more ability will not have much impact on Su Chen, unless, as mentioned before, there is a vector control, fantasy killer, or Phoenix Force origin magic power or something. Otherwise, having mutant ability is not much different from not having it. Mirror space. Su Chen finally activated this long-cherished skill and carried Magneto directly into the mirror space. Without the core component of the instrument, Magneto slowly stopped working. Wolverine outside takes this opportunity to heroically save the little Lolita. Seeing that the little naughty boy was dying, Logan quickly gave his powers and life energy to the little naughty boy. At the last critical moment, he saved the little naughty life. On the other side, the White Queen returned to her original form and sat slumped in the pit. Red Devil, are you here? Take our people away, it's too dangerous here. After the White Queen finished speaking, the Red Devil took the White Queen and some of his own people and left the statue of Goddess Museum. At the same time, the White Queen cursed in her heart and would never get involved in Magneto's affairs again. The loss is huge this time, and I don't know if the other party will come to visit me personally. Who are you? Magneto looked at this magical mirror space and couldn't help but wonder about Su Chen's identity. It doesn't matter who I am. What's important is that you are in New York and you have released such a powerful weapon on my territory. Tell me what to do. Magneto's expression changed a little when he heard this. I didn't know this was your territory. I mainly turned the politicians below into mutants. I can't even transform the entire New York. Even if I succeed, I will die. Magneto explained that now there was no room for him not to explain. Suddenly I came to a strange place and all my men were gone. And because of the little naughty power just now, she is very weak now. Like a terminally ill old man. As a fierce mutant rebel, the #1 boss has no intention of just converting a few politicians and calling it a day. He doesn't want to drink those dirty politicians for one. I think we can talk. Magneto said slowly. I think there are some misunderstandings between us, and I think I can explain it. No need to explain. I have no interest. I can talk to you about mutants' future. I'm more interested in this. After saying that, Su Chen gave a bad smile. For some reason, Magneto trembled when he saw this smile. So Su Chen talked to Magneto again about how to develop mutants' population. How to give birth to a large area after mutant. Magneto's thoughts also wandered away. Then Magneto took off his helmet. Charles, I know you're here, get on the line. Su Chen didn't pay attention. After Su Chen made such a suggestion, he suddenly felt that the world was heading towards an unpredictable ending. Although the ending is mysterious, Su Chen found it so exciting. There were ripples in the eyes of Professor. But no matter how many times he sent the message, he was always told that the user you dialed is currently on a call and please call again later. Professor, is there anything that deserves you to be so happy? Beast, who was taking care of the professor, said suddenly. After all these years, Eric is finally willing to take the initiative to talk to me on the phone. Beast also smiled slightly, as if he was recalling the good times of saving the world together under the sunset. Eric, your action is too extreme. I have to admit that your idea is good, but your action is flawed. Hear what Charles said. Magneto looked confused and had an expression of disbelief. He even suspected that there was something wrong with his body and that his ears were not working properly. This was the first time that Charles did not come out to oppose him. "Professor, do you also approve of my approach?" Magneto suddenly felt like he was recognized by the world. Definitely, although this matter was a huge amount of mistake in terms of results, the starting point was undoubtedly good. "You can make such an instrument without technological support. You are also very powerful. Come back. With Beast helping you, you may be able to perfect your instrument." Cherise's voice came directly into Eric's mind. "Private phone calls. Su Chen has no right to monitor them." "Hey, I really want to hear what they talked about. It feels so exciting." After the professor's attentive conversation, Magneto stood up, moved around a bit, and felt much better. Although the professor ruined his plan, Magneto chose to forgive. "Eric, are you willing to go back to Mutant College?" The professor persuaded again. "Who said I'm leaving with you?" Magneto shrugged and said with a confused look on his face. "Don't I agree with your idea?" Charles's doubtful voice came from Magneto's mind. "Charlie, we are not children anymore. Although you agree with my idea, I didn't say I wanted to leave with you. Even if you control me and return to the academy, you can't keep my heart." Magneto said again. At Charles's level, could he fool him? If he really thinks that it is so easy to return to the academy, then he is extremely stupid. "I don't deserve to be alone outside and struggle for so many years. Think about what Magneto did when I loved you. He attempted to destroy the entire New York and kill the congressman, a crime that was relatively minor even if he was shot for 5 minutes. If the professor takes him in, will the college still be a safe place? If the academy is no longer safe, where will the new blood of the Magneto organization come from? Even if Charles helps him escape, so what? Magneto has attracted the attention of all forces. In the following days, he can only hide and accept various challenges carefully. The danger can be imagined. Magneto's villain image has been fixed, and various wanted posters have been posted on the top of each organization's list. So all this Magneto is for Charles. "Okay, let's get down to business." Suddenly Magneto said solemnly to the professor. "Someone just told me about the plan to develop the mutant population. I think it's great." "Did he also tell you?" "I also thought about it and it seems feasible, provided that it cannot be noticed, otherwise it will be easy to fail." Charles said after a moment of silence. "I didn't think about getting it right in one step. I still know that doing it too hastily will be counterproductive." Magneto continued. "Perhaps we can take steps to make people all over the world possess the it can still be done." Magneto is full of confidence. Although the professor has Wolverine, he also has Sabretooth, which is not weak at all, and is 1.6 meters taller than Wolverine. The 2-meter Sabretooth will be more attractive to some people. There is still a possibility. But what's the use? Charles said this after being silent for a while. "I think if there are so many people, we can completely separate a state in the United States. With tens of millions of mutants, it is impossible to even do this kind of thing." At this time Magneto finally showed his fangs. His own territory, a safe and reliable environment for mutants, this is what Magneto wants most in his life. Although he doesn't want to use force to conquer all this, if his fists are useful, he can definitely do it. Even if you die in the end. You want independence. Then there is no doubt that the United States will never agree. This will only lead to war. It will lead to many deaths. And not only that, countries around the world will also be more wary of mutants because of what happened to the United States, which will further worsen our living environment. Moreover, we are not aware of human weapons. If we gather together, we will easily be taken away by them in a wave." Quote. The professor thought for a while and said, "I have an idea." The professor suddenly thought about it. "I still have some money. I will buy the development rights of a piece of wasteland for hundreds of years, and then build a city on it, where mutants and ordinary people will live their lives. I'm looking for an opportunity to give this area autonomy. This territory nominally belongs to the United States, but it is economically and politically independent. The chief is elected by all citizens and is only responsible to the citizens of the region. What do you think? This way we won't be blocked and we can have our own development site." Charles has learned a lot about politicians over the years, and he has also learned one thing: as long as he offers enough chips, mutants' interests can still be somewhat satisfied. Otherwise, how dare he? Mutant College was opened on the edge of the bustling city of New York. Magneto thought for a while and really felt that it was feasible, but there was a huge and most important problem here. Charles, how much are you prepared to pay for a piece of land? I'm going to spend $1 trillion. How much do you say? Well, you are awesome. Your family is rich, so you don't need to worry about me. I am also planning to go to Africa to work for a few days to make some money, but I guess I won't need it now. This was when Magneto couldn't help but shed painful tears. You know, in order to fund his activities, he often went to Africa to mine gold. If I had known this, I would have borrowed some from my good friend. No wonder my good friend opened a school and established a research laboratory. Even the planes built by ourselves are more advanced than those of the entire United States Aviation Administration. If I didn't know about renting that piece of land before, now I have 2 perfect sites. Where is it? One is New Mexico, the other is Manhattan, which was mostly destroyed. The professor considered it carefully. Now that New Mexico is in desperate need of development, renting a piece of land should not be too easy. But the amount of post-processing work is huge. Even if the people at Mutant Academy invest in the project, it will be very slow. Manhattan does not have these disadvantages, although it is still full of geological structures that are difficult for ordinary people to deal with. But it was too easy for Mutant. In addition, the Manhattan area was the original economic zone. Due to its destruction, many rich people went bankrupt. If they took over this land now, they might be able to get a discount. And today these congressmen are here to deal with issues in Manhattan. The answer they gave was to build a park, and if the professor gave the idea of restoring the city, they would definitely support it. I have decided to live in Manhattan, and I will also build a new Mutant Academy. My manor is already a bit small and cannot accommodate too many students. I've already decided on a name for the new city, and it won't be called Manhattan. Prepare to change it to Academy City. You said you want to build a city. Maybe I can help you. Suddenly, a strong voice suddenly came out in the private channel where the professor and Magneto were communicating. Charlie, what's going on? Is there a virus invasion? Eric said to the professor, but the next moment he was kicked out of the private channel. Leave Eric Messi in the wind. X Academy. A giant man with blue skin suddenly appeared behind the professor. There is also an angel with steel wings beside him. A soul holding katana. Who are you? How did you get here? Beast shouted to the person who suddenly appeared. This is the brainwave strengthening room of Mutant Academy, the highest security level in Mutant Academy. How could someone suddenly break in without anyone noticing? This man is none other than the first mutant on Earth, Apocalypse. It is also one of the truly side effect-free level 5 mutants. And obtained through his ability seal. Almost immortal body, super strength, super speed, super endurance, super physique. Teleport. Has flight, psychokinesis, psychic defense. It can control energy and use energy to do many things, such as creating hallucinations and memory changes, material reconstruction, healing, and physical repair of damaged or destroyed body tissues, and even desertification. Also has an almost impenetrable stance. It can even transfer energy to the opponent, which can be used to enhance the opponent's strength and ability. The previous professor was wrong. Mutant does not have hexagonal warriors, Apocalypse is the exception. While the professor was chatting about life with Magneto, he woke up from a long time of nearly 5,000 years in distant Egypt. If it were the age of the wheel, the ancient one magician would be a fraction of this one. Although this person spends most of his time sleeping. But time left no trace on his body. Just when he finished learning the knowledge of the world by watching the movie, he became clear about the world. This world is actually ruled by weak humans. Did they betray themselves? Those false gods and leaders no longer exist. Nuramar, no, mortals, your god is back. At this moment, the ancient mutant suddenly sensed a spiritual bridge. Following this spiritual bridge, he followed the traces to open the teleportation and came directly to Mutant Academy. It's not good to be alone on the phone, so I'll join you too. After arriving at the venue, I also listened to the exchange between Charles and Eric for a while. And scoff at their ideas. You want to build a city? That's too poor. Let's build a new world. After Apocalypse finished speaking, he directly controlled the professor with his strong mental power. It's amazing, it's incredible. With your power, I can dominate the whole world. Apocalypse has been trying to control the whole world and make them slaves. Now with Professor X's ability, this goal can be achieved directly. The professor accidentally put on black contact lenses. Let me enter your conscious world. Apocalypse opens its white eyes to activate ability. Fortunately, this is not an eye legend, otherwise the Hyuga clan will sue you for copyright infringement, and if it is not handled well, they will have to gouge your eyes out. I saw the brainwave strengthening machine running at full power, connecting most people around the world in an instant. Only a few with strong abilities or those with special props survived. I feel that there are many new tribesmen with new abilities. Are you all ready? Come and welcome your god's return. Through the spiritual transmission of the professor, mutants all over the world heard these words. Moreover, when facing different people, their native language translations are used. The language should not be too simple for Apocalypse. After all, it's not difficult to learn by watching movies. When Apocalypse connected the world, it also cut off the ability of the new mutant. He discovered many good seeds. The king of CHBF who controls the magnetic field, the storm who controls the weather, phoenix full of destructive aura. Suddenly, Apocalypse's eyes revealed a dangerous aura, the look of a hunter when he sees his prey. This ancient mutant was not as friendly and peaceful as imagined. Charlie, please wake up, Beast shouted crazily outside, but to no avail. With Apocalypse's casual move, Beast was pinned against the wall and couldn't even buckle out. Human beings do not need stone tools, spears, or resistance. Connect the whole world. The first thing Apocalypse does is to bring peace to the world. You don't need slings, swords, weapons, or systems. So, disappear all of them. At this time, governments around the world fell into a state of control. All nuclear submarines and nuclear bomb silos flew into space without the control of the masterminds of various countries. Apocalypse is also very annoyed by humans resisting him. Although these weapons are of no use to him, these weapons will also hinder him in building a new Earth. So human weapons should disappear on their own. At the moment in SHIELD's Sky Carrier, Fury watched as nuclear bombs around the world were launched. One of them even flew into the air, grazing the side of the Sky aircraft carrier, making him mistakenly think that it was Hydra, who was so angry that he wanted to die together. Director, it's bad. Nuclear bomb launchers around the world have been controlled, and now nuclear bombs have been launched around the world. What about ours? Fury thought that there were nuclear bombs in his Sky aircraft carrier, so wouldn't it mean that his own people were also controlled? That's not true. In order to prevent our department from being invaded by X-Men personnel, the special departments are made of special materials, so they have not been controlled yet. That's good, but since there are no nuclear bombs in the world, we are the only ones, wouldn't it be? Notify the Security Council that we have important things to report and apply for activity funds for the next quarter. Ghost Rider Johnny, although it's a bit unethical for you to do this, I like it. An Air Force headquarters. Seeing the nuclear bomb that had been launched without his own instructions, the commander couldn't help but roared in the conference room. What's going on? The key is in our hands. Who gave the order? Sir, we have lost control of the Trident and Polaris. A soldier reported. It's over, a global nuclear abandonment plan. Or a global nuclear land-washing plan. The commander slumped on his seat helplessly, praying to heaven. Countless ordinary people below watched the nuclear bomb lift off and trembled. Boom, boom, countless nuclear bombs were detonated in the universe, bursting out with dazzling light. In order to welcome Apocalypse's appearance, Apocalypse put on the most expensive firework in the world at their own expense. What happened? Su Chen looked at Eric, whose expression changed greatly. The moment the professor was controlled, the professor proactively cut off contact with him. Otherwise Eric will also become the object of Tien Chi's control. Apocalypse's mental power is so strong that as long as he has a terminal, he can even perfectly control everyone in the world to do things for him. Sir, I'm embarrassed, but can you do me a favor? Say first, I'm taking a look. Su Chen is not the kind of protagonist with a strong sense of justice. He will not do anything if there is no actual benefit. Charles is under control, we need to rescue him. Eric said in embarrassment. Then you go and save me, I didn't stop you. Su Chen shrugged and said. Professor X is under control, is he some general? What a big deal. The enemy is very strong. Even if it is just a glimpse, it is definitely the strongest enemy I have seen so far. Eric is extremely weak now, and his whole body looks extremely weak. It seems that a lot of life force has been absorbed by the little naughty boy. It's better for you to save your gay. I'm not interested. To be honest, Magneto really didn't have much appeal to him. He is poor and has no oil or water at all. The most valuable thing on his body is his superpower and his helmet. He is not Mephisto, and he cannot rob the opponent's ability without a contract. And even the helmet is the same. Su Chen didn't believe there was anyone on Earth who could break through the little mental defense restrictions he had etched on his head. Not only Su Chen, but also the Ancient One was not affected in any way, and even Kamar-Taj's junior master was the same. Kamar-Taj also has its own defensive barrier to protect those inside from harm. And Apocalypse doesn't know this. However, something unusual was discovered when Eric was thrown out of the mirror space. Su Chen's knowledge actually led to the discovery of a powerful life form in the direction of X College. No abnormalities were noticed in the mirror space before, and the unliberated Icarus and Thor also had no perception ability. This caused the situation of darkness under the lamp. And Su Chen found that the enemy's strength was even stronger than when Mephisto duplication came. God level. He is a god-level person who is serious about things, and Su Chen realized something was wrong. I originally planned to let the Magnetox men solve it on their own, but it seems like that won't work anymore. Let's not talk about Magneto's serious disability. Mutants' few little shrimps really can't make any waves. Unless the cute new Phoenix explodes. Otherwise it's really nothing to see. Moreover, the other party is in New York, not far from my holy place. I changed my mind, I'll give this to you. After saying that, Su Chen took out a big bag of fairy beans, reluctantly took one out of it, and broke it in half. Then he put the remaining half back into the bag and threw the other half to Eric. Eat it and you will recover. Beans, can I recover? In Eric's disbelieving eyes, his physical condition has returned to normal, and even the deficit has been restored. Thanks. Eric controlled his body to fly into the air. He found that all his men were missing, and it seemed that they had been defeated by the X-Men. The people from Hellfire are gone too. They ran so fast. X-Men, X Academy is being invaded now. Which of you is willing to go back with me to save the professor? At this time, the X-Men immediately exploded when they heard this, and they all expressed their willingness to give up their prejudices and cooperate temporarily. Why am I missing you at this time? Eric looked at Wolverine, who showed no expression. There was a vague dodge in Wolverine's eyes, as if he didn't want to participate in the battle. Logan, will you fight with me? Eric asked in what he thought was as sincere a voice as possible. I don't want to, I'm not familiar with you. Wolverine now saves the little Lolita, no, the Rugrats, so his mission is accomplished. And Logan has no memory, so his feelings for the professor are not deep. So he has no desire to save the professor with Magneto, the biggest Lolita in the world. But when Wolverine and Eric glanced at each other at any time, they suddenly trembled. This is fear and instinct controlled by magnetic fields. MMP, I really want to refuse. Mutant Academy. Apocalypse looks at so many kids at Mutant Academy. What a capable child they are. Apocalypse looked at these mutants with different abilities and sighed with determination. You are all my children, and you just lost your way because you followed the wrong leader and relied on a fragile ruling system that has no power from mortals. Only we are the masters of the future. Follow me and let us make the Earth the center of the universe together. Apocalypse controlled Beast and the professor, and said to the students below. But among the students below, none of them are full of Chunabu. Not to mention movies, they have even seen many scenes like this in comics, and they said they don't feel anything at all. At this time, Apocalypse felt that his MLM level seemed to have dropped a lot. But it doesn't matter, after they see my power, they will surrender to me. Be my knight. Knight, you want to ride me. Believe it or not, I will whip you with my coiling dragon whip so much that your parents don't even know you. At the moment, an inappropriate voice came from below. Or do you think you are a person and just want to ride it? I want to watch you talk, but why do you bury your face in your butt? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that was your face, so where did your butt go? I used to think I was pretty ugly, but I felt relieved after seeing you. You look so disgusting and you still dare to go out. I also admire your courage. This person was none other than Deadpool, who was locked up in the basement. He was immediately released after being interrupted by Apocalypse. Then comes the chatting session. Without 5,000 years of cultural influence, Apocalypse is obviously not right for the people. The blue skin has also become a bit livid. Then a slap in the face. Deadpool was afraid of death, but soon returned to normal. Apocalypse also knows the opponent's ability, but Apocalypse does not yet have the professor's ability and cannot control the opponent's mind. Finally, he knew why he was locked up. So after a farce, Apocalypse recruited 2 new 4 horsemen with his unique personality charm. Iceman Colossus isn't recruiting at Mutant Academy just like recruiting young people. On the plane, a group of people got ready to fly to Mutant Academy. Take a good look at Su Chen's lineup. The first is Magneto, the main C, who is the strength of mutant. Then there is Phoenix, the control and output auxiliary here. The tank is Wolverine, which takes on the task of resisting damage. Storm Girl is the representative of Magician, and the entire AP damage depends on him. Finally, there is Cyclops. As the AD in this game, he feels a little immobile. In terms of combat power, it is still very difficult for such a group of people to kill gods. It's just that they don't know who the enemy is, otherwise they would never be happy now. When Su Chen approached Mutant Academy, he already knew who the enemy was. After all, the iconic tower with gold characters is still very eye-catching. Just now, Apocalypse had nothing to do, so he built a pyramids directly at the Mutant Academy location. This has also resulted in the originally beautiful manor being turned into ruins and desertification. Apocalypse, are you sure you are not the brother of Farima next door? Everyone in the plane was about to approach the target. Magician Storm took the lead and activated her mutant ability. As Storm uses its ability, dark clouds suddenly gather in the clear night sky, the wind is howling at the moment, and electricity is gestating in it. Boom! The thunder shook, and a thick lightning struck the pyramids like a roaring thunder dragon. As a result, the pyramids didn't even move. Storm Girl, you can't attack people. As the plane approached, 4 people appeared on the tip of the pyramids. Storm Girl's ability was just a sidekick, without hitting anyone. The most important thing is that there is a colossus like a lightning rod inside. This can all miss the mark. This Storm is probably trying to fake the match. After seeing the enemy, Magneto directly controlled the spacecraft and opened the hatch. Then he stepped on Wolverine's body using magnetic field control and flew straight away. Then Storm Girl and Phoenix also flew out. Surround the 4 people on the opposite side. Only Su Chen, Icarus, Thor, and Cyclops were left staring in the plane. Su Chen and the other 3 looked at each other as if they were saying, "Why don't you fly out?" Magneto stepped on Logan, Phoenix, and Storm to form a triangle, surrounding the 4 of them. "Surrender. You are surrounded. You can't escape," Eric said coldly, full of force and a showman. Except for Charles, there was no emotion in his eyes. Colossus, Iceman, and the Spirit Disc were all indifferent and took a step back. Asshole. The one who got the most angry was Angel. Eric's vulgar language seemed to be mocking him alone. Angel spreads his steel wings. It seemed like he was swearing that he would not surrender. For Magneto, the steel wings were the biggest failure of Apocalypse's transformation of Angel. Angel, who had steel wings, was sent directly to the sky. "Actually, I'm from the 25th generation. I'm here to spy on the military situation." Colossus raised his hands directly and gave in when he saw this good friend of Charles. Perfect counter on variant ability. Besides, he never thought about betraying the professor, but the situation forced him to do so, otherwise all of them would be locked up. Besides, Apocalypse did not force him to be loyal to him, so Colossus volunteered to become Apocalypse's subordinate. As for Iceman, this guy has really good ability. Not only does Apocalypse give him a lot of benefits, the most important thing is that it delivers energy to him. An upgrade package was given to Iceman, and Iceman joined the 4 horsemen half-heartedly. If the professor gives the order, he will still return to the arms of the X-Men. So there are 4 Knights of Apocalypse, an Angel who is improved by his own ability, and the Jester is perfectly restrained by Magneto. Of the 2 young men, Psylocke was the only one left. Is it too late for me to surrender now? So under the leadership of Magneto, I got the achievement of cleaning up the miscellaneous soldiers. After controlling Psylocke and Angel, the group came to the pyramids. I have to say, Apocalypse's design skills are really strong. It took me going around in circles several times before I found the right route. Why don't you just go in a straight line? Su Chen said, sideways push, does it take away the fun of adventure? At this time, Apocalypse was actually possessing others' body with Professor Charles, preparing to plunder Professor X's superpowers. At this time, Charles finally took the first step towards becoming a bald man. Asshole, what on earth have you done? Eric finally became angry when he saw that Charles had become bald. Eric, who was cold and full of force, finally became angry. Magneto didn't learn the feel the pulse of the earth attack from Apocalypse. But a torrent of huge amounts of steel flew out from the ground and swept Apocalypse directly, blasting it away. Obviously he exploded out of anger. Su Chen secretly thought that it was a pity that he missed the opportunity to kill Apocalypse directly. But I seem to have discovered the correct way to use Magneto, Professor Sacrifice to Heaven. Boundless power. Apocalypse obviously won't die so easily. Su Chen has already felt the opponent's aura rising steadily, and the stone bricks in the pyramids are slowly rising, opening a hole of huge amounts in everyone's eyes. The armor that had been mostly destroyed by the steel torrent was also recovering quickly. Are you the invaders? Where are the 4 horsemen of Apocalypse? Apocalypse looked at Iceman and Colossus behind Magneto and couldn't help but look angry. I am your god, why do you betray me? Only by believing in me can you be saved. The rage in Apocalypse's eyes almost burned Iceman and Colossus to ashes. As for the remaining 2 knights, with their strength, Apocalypse can figure it out. Trash, it's all trash. If you're not dead, try this. Magneto saw that ordinary metal seemed to have no effect on Apocalypse, so he changed it to a more powerful one. So Magneto controls Wolverine again. Wolverine. MMP. In the future, I can't have you without me, and I can't have you either. Diamond Poison Dragon Diamond. Relying on the rotation of the magnetic field, coupled with the tail properties of adamantium. At last, still can't break Apocalypse's position. Please like and subscribe.